And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode. This one's going to be a special treat.
Yay, treats. Does it involve chocolate?
Not quite.
Um,
In honor
Sunday?
of us redoing this show, I thought it'd be a nice step back to do our first episode that we did for numerous reasons. One of
Like
them
the
was
fact,
that the original got lost due to the internet.
yes, the internet.
Hey, I don't want any fingers being pointed at me. I did my job.
Oh, I'm not pointing any fingers.
I can't see your picture, and I have my,
Oh, I'm just pointing elbows.
dick.
I'd point a foot, but I'm not that flexible.
So, yes, we are doing the first episode we ever did the show with, which was a waste of
Right,
potential episode.
right. We're doing it on zero, right? To be fair, that is one of our problems with it. Yeah, we're recovering Mega Man X, which um, is a very important franchise to the two of us. It's because of the X franchise that we're even friends.
Mm-hmm. So we kind of owe this one a little bit, despite
Yeah.
it being in the waste of potential.
Um, we're just gonna say the first waste part of it is Capcom. Remember it exists.
Yeah, X has appeared in a few other things, rarely.
I rarely actually think he appears in things that make sense. Fighting games.
I'll take what I can get. To be fair,
You're not wrong. He's just a shitty
we'll
pacifist
discuss
when he
that
shows
at
up.
the end. Let's save that for the end discussion.
Sure, sure.
So, Mega Man X, for those of you who are not aware, is a sequel to the original Mega Man game, or as
Yes.
the Japanese may know it as Rockman.
Now the X stands for the mathematical X, as in X equals
The
uh,
unknown,
pot- the unknown.
potentially.
Yeah, it is not X as in the 10th in the franchise, because when X came out, I believe they had just released Mega Man 5, was it?
I'm not sure, but I'll admit I was confused when I first saw it as well. So,
I mean, the first Mega Man I played was Mega Man 3, so I went from 3 to X.
to be fair, they did do some of the Roman numerals when they were doing with the Mega Man on the Game Boy. So
Yes,
a
yes,
little
they did.
confusion is understandable. So it could have been like, oh, they jumped from the Game Boy series, which had its own slight oddball storytelling to it as well, but it was still canon. So
Yes.
if you thought it was just a continuation, I couldn't fully blame you.
No.
So, but no, this is a completely different robot. Still made by Light
Yes.
though.
Um, we could talk about how a lot of people still think he is the original Mega Man, but we don't have time to debunk that. But I can link a channel that does involve debunking stuff like that. Hang on a second, I forgot their name.
Look, the closest I can think of him being the original Mega Man is maybe some systems or some battle data got sent over, but that's about it. Like,
Now, if you want a good channel to, well, they actually call themselves debunk busters for some things. It's called Reploid Revo. They handle the confusing lore of the Mega Man franchise way better than we have time for.
I'll have to rewatch that because I think I remember you sending that to me before.
I will. I'll just leave it in our chat so we
But
can.
enough about side channels and other people's channels. We need to get on with our own.
Yes, yes, we do.
So, there is now in the original Mega Man, they were all robots, flat out robots.
Yeah,
No distinguishing between them besides their purpose and their programming. That was about
yeah.
it.
There were the low grade robots and the robot masters, which were
Mm-hmm.
basically just hub control units.
In the X series, it gets a little more complicated. Now,
We're introduced to Reploids in this franchise, which it is a play on replicant and android
mm-hmm.
from
Essentially,
later
that is
episodes.
what it stands for. Replicated Android. Instead of saying both words, they just combine it together to make it easier.
Yes, because the X is an android, but he was so damn advanced that replicating him made the Reploids.
Yes, and X seems to, even by the later X games, still have black boxes in the system.
Yeah, the TV tropes of a black box, which I remember I told you about back in the day, is basically just along the lines of it's just so complex that they cannot crack all the data
Mm.
inside of it.
And this was one of the few games I thought actually used it well.
Yeah.
It isn't
It,
that it they possibly couldn't, but doing so could either A, destroy X completely,
mm,
B, that it would take too much time to put into a mass produced model,
mm.
which a lot of Reploids were, or some other reason that I can't think of off the top of
Well,
my head for the moment.
the C reason is Dr. Light made X and then put him in a pod to for I think it was 30 years
I
to
was going to
learn
get that in a moment, but we can bring that up.
right from wrong and to just because X has free will.
That is the main definition for a Reploid is that while they are still a robot by a lot of the terms, they are not bound by the three laws of robotics.
No.
Now, this is kind of controversial in my opinion. A robot is only bound to the three laws of robotics if you put them in there.
Mhm.
It is robots are bound by what you program in them. The three laws of robotics are programs that you should put in a robot.
Do not harm a human. Do not uh, allow harm to come to a human. And I forgot what the third one was.
Self-preservation if it doesn't conflict with the
Compile.
first two laws.
Yes. And side note, one of my favorite writers, well, not favorite writers, one of my favorite things about writing the writer uh, Isaac Asimov is that he wrote these three laws and then wrote an entire long bunch of short stories so that with these laws we won't get the Terminator in a sense.
And that
And
is important because, as I said, if you don't put them in there, they're not going to be magically there. Some
no,
people are under this misconception that because it's known as the three robotic laws, that they're automatically there. They are not.
yes, I also hate when people say, "Well, the robot can just override them." Not unless they have free will,
There are certain ways to do that. Number one is to
and
hack the
they're
robot. Number two
and
is a coding issue.
yeah, and those are usually the lines of not the robot's fault, just somebody screwing things up. And
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite things about one of Isaiah's stories is he made one company made Rule 3 more important than Rule 2, so it caused the robot to go into an infinite loop of I can't solve this problem, better check my rules. I can't solve this problem, better check my rules.
Yeah, it's the only
But with
robot in the Mega Man series I know of that is flexible with these rules to degrees is probably Rockman himself.
only in the North American version.
I said flexible. I didn't say outright denying them.
Hmm.
Base, but
Again,
that's questionable depending upon
that
certain things.
sings more
But
like Wiley made a mistake or five.
that's why
The
I'm saying
only
flexible because I don't
yeah,
know exactly how Wiley did it.
yeah.
Proto Man.
Proto Man is the only one I would actually argue is close to free
Mm-hmm.
will.
Well, that's why I'm saying flexible and not outright free
Yeah, yeah,
will
yeah, yeah,
because it's very touch
yeah.
and go with them because they're very advanced robots, but they still have set rules.
Yes. And the
And
thing
those are
about
about the only three that I would mention that would be
yes,
beyond that could have the potential to break their three laws.
and even then, that would be breaking them, and that's I don't think they would ever actually do that.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
But
That's why I
but
say flexible
getting back,
in the
yeah,
most
getting
sense.
back to the Reploids, they are given the three laws in a sense, but as they have free will, they
They're
don't have
no
to
more
follow.
enforced to follow them than a normal human.
Yeah, it's just saying it's basically they were taught a moral system like every human is taught a moral system.
Now
It's
these,
also
now I see these. These are kind of probably the early produced models of Reploids. They do look humanoid,
yes.
but later down the
Now,
road we do get more human-looking models.
yeah, the reason why you'd want machines with free will is well, with free will, you're able to take what's in front of you and decide, make choices with it. A robot can only follow a path. If a robot is programmed to drive on a road and the road is destroyed, the robot stops driving.
Not
A
only
reploid,
that, with the fast speed of a robot that can process data as fast as
and that
probably.
was that was what I was getting to. My
Uh,
point: a reploid, if he's a delivery driver, has to follow the rules. Oh, hey, that road's damaged. I can off-road this. I can calculate the best route where it won't damage my truck because
mm-hmm.
they can think faster than humans and they can now on the fly make choices. They're still programmed, so obviously they won't know everything. If you build a Reploid as a truck driver, he'll know how to be a truck driver. It's built into him. But if he really gets sick of being a truck driver, he can go and learn a new task. He can get a different job.
And probably being robotic or android in best case scenario, you probably download the instructions for it, and he
Take less
has
time
the
to,
information for it.
and
Saves time.
and he would bring his truck driving knowledge with him, which I don't know what maybe would be really useful as a security guard. He goes, actually, you could probably back a truck up in here and steal everything. We should probably install tire spikes here.
Now you might be wondering, what is if they're all are they all Reploids?
No, they still kept
No.
manual labor
A
machines, not
lot of
called,
the robots are known as mechaniloids.
which feels like a colloquialism, like to just differentiate the two.
Yeah, but I also kind of like the term also.
Oh no, I'm not saying I
So
dislike it. I like it. Mechanoids are generally just big hulking machines, like this weird spider thing, which apparently I believe was used for construction.
yeah, it was for grabbing girders and
Yeah.
heavy
M-
machinery and
Moving around in tight spaces between already
hmm
established buildings is what I believe it was for,
yeah.
which just shows engineering. Like rather than have to make a big hullabaloo, you could just knock down a smaller skyscraper and build a new one in its place
hmm
without having to bother the neighbors.
These are the
And
ones that are more robotic. They follow basic directions.
because of this, they're generally bigger, stronger, faster, but because they're unable to make choices, they're less dangerous in situations. But so what? We should just keep going before I start jumping the gun of things.
Yeah, I was about to say, could you just halt right there?
Yeah,
So this is X.
full name Mega Man X,
Is he
but
on
most
full screen for you, M? I just want to make sure for sizing
he's full
purposes.
screen for me.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
he's well centered on my screen.
hmm
But yeah, this is X. Well, like I said, most people refer to him as X for short because Mega Man X, Mega Man X, Mega Man X, Mega Man X,
Yeah,
Mega X, Mega
and
Man.
he was technically titled X by his creator, so they all just kind of go with it.
Yeah, that's what he prefers to be referred to as well.
And to be fair, I just think it's a nice name for him.
Oh yeah, he is the main character of, well, supposedly the main character of the X
We'll
franchise.
get to that in a little bit, folks. Give us some time.
He play in gameplay. He's pretty much just a souped up Mega Man. He has the same basic abilities, run, jump, shoot lemons, charge up your lemons to bigger shots. But he gets special armor upgrades throughout the game.
He
This is what
also
really,
has, before you get the armors, he also has one other ability Mega Man did not have:
oh,
the wall kick.
oh yeah, the wall kick. Actually, apparently, according to manga, that's a technique he learns from Zero.
He still has it though, regardless of where he
Yes,
learned it from.
but he also has the best function Mega Man does have, which is when you beat a boss, you get the power.
He has a
Oh,
weapon copy weapon system,
yeah,
which I like
which
that being like originally meaning for him to just be able to copy like hammers, wrenches, and other
mm,
tools for his day to day work.
yeah,
Because Rock was originally a lab assistant.
yeah.
Now
X, however, was always built in with a devastating beam cannon attached to his arm, which can become a hand.
we'll get
But
to that in a few little bit, guys.
yeah,
Let us
yeah. But
to
X,
the basics.
in terms of gameplay, if you liked Mega Man, you'll generally like how X
hmm
handles. He's just Mega Man, but
The,
more,
yeah, the only difference is instead of a slide, he has a dash.
which he doesn't start off with. He learns it in X1 in a sense, and then keeps it for the rest of the franchise. Thank Christ he doesn't pull a Samus and constantly lose some of his upgrades. He does lose a lot from each game, but not to the same level
Yeah,
as
and he
Mr.
also
Rock
loses a
has.
lot of armors,
Yeah,
which I don't.
that's
I kind of get it because he is not a pacifist. He is what's known as a practitioner of peace. There is a
yes.
difference.
Yes, he will defend himself. He will defend others. He will engage in combat, but he's gonna bitch about it the entire time.
And oh boy, does he bitch about it.
I mean, he kind of has a good reason to. He sees all Reploids as kind of descended from him, and it's basically just like Dad walks into the room, sees all of his kids are literally in a fist fight, drawing blood, and just going, "Oh, what did I do
And
wrong?"
his only resolution is to put them down, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Like, he literally has no choice in this matter. And we'll get to
it's
that in a few moments later.
some games do it well. Most games just make it sound like someone should stand behind X playing the fiddle.
It kind of felt fine in, like, 1 through 4. 4 was kind of getting there, but wasn't.
4 got there for me.
I'm just saying, like it was tolerable, but I don't think it's because it was somebody else's game at that point.
But yeah, yeah.
And
The worst of it though is X7, which
yeah,
we'll
oh
source
my
this news
god,
right
I
now.
don't even.
X7 is the worst of the entire franchise. It might even be the worst Mega Man game in my opinion.
Well, I don't. Before I even start in on that one, let's move on.
Fair enough.
So,
Let's
as X was saying
discuss.
just a moment ago, he does get different armors each game, and I think it
Yes,
was five that gave him multiple sets of armor in one game.
5 and 6 are the 5, 6, and 8 are the only ones where he gets multiple.
Seven just gave him the same suit, but it had different attachments to it, pretty much.
8 had the base armor with interchangeable parts, were pretty cool.
Hmm.
I just didn't like the design of the 8 armor.
Eh,
We're not going to show all the armors because that's in another episode altogether.
that is just a lot to show off and discuss, and the
We can
armors are
eat.
not wasted potential here.
Uh, Similar designs are, but overall, one day we might do like a top 10
Yeah, well,
X
to
armors.
be fair, okay, let's put it this way: the design is questionable, but the ideas for them
Oh
are
God, yeah,
not
they're all
wasted potential. So
no.
I think we can agree there.
They're usually well designed for the game. Exception being X7, but I just don't think X7 was a well designed game
Yeah.
as well as the
Because I like the
previous one.
idea of X with his armors being more of the universal fighter. Like he has an
Yeah,
armor, kind of like Iron Man. He has an armor for every situation.
yeah.
So we'll leave that there for right now.
And let's discuss the actual.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no,
I
no.
forgot I had this image here. My fault.
Oh yes, Dr. Light's lab, which
Hmm.
is it's nice that we actually are getting a lot of these behind the scenes stuff easier found.
Yeah, I just love how this looks. Like this looks like, for the
Like
purposes, like an underground bunker lab,
yeah, we don't
which
really know
leads to a lot
why.
of ideas of the theory behind the discrepancy between Mega Man and or X. I mean,
Yeah, but we don't actually get that much of the information, which is
no.
a little bit on the annoying side.
But this doesn't look like a typical light lab either. This looks like it was a bunker.
Yeah, most of Light's labs look like they're in his house. Like you leave the kitchen and you're in his lab.
Yeah, or you just go into the backyard to the shed, which is huge and is his lab.
The shed is bigger than the rest of his house, probably.
I wouldn't doubt it. But this, because this does,
This does not look like some place you work where you want to be comfortable. This looks like a place where you just work.
yeah, for essential safety, I would say.
Yeah. All right.
And even beyond that, this doesn't look like a typical light lab. It doesn't feel as welcoming.
No, this is not a place he brings tour groups.
No. So now moving on to our supposed second main character.
Yeah. Let's just get it out of the way right away. A lot of Mega Man fans, when they played this NES game, thought Zero was a chick.
Okay, the boob lights were not helping that distinction.
No, the long blonde hair. But Zero started off as the Obi-Wan Kenobi character, or the Uncle Ben character, or the mentor who was doomed to die.
Actually, if I might correct you on that one.
I mean, in the story,
Okay,
Zero
fair
was
enough.
originally going to be the main character, but they decided to keep it blue for the sake of, Mega Man's blue. Let's keep the next game blue. But
They only did that to try and keep it so that you would recognize him as a Mega Man character.
yeah,
Zero, they felt would be too sudden of a change, which I kind of agree with.
yeah, I do, and that's why they made him in story, the Uncle Ben and the cool guy. And due to popular demand, they brought Zero back, and ever since he brought him back for X2 and X3, he was playable, and X4 you got to play as X or Zero, and by X5 the story is Zero's.
Yeah,
Like
you could even argue
I
by
like
four.
I like Zero far more than I like X, but his name's not on the box. He gets
No.
his own franchise, and nobody steals his spotlight in those games.
Well, it's like, I mean, by then they kind of swap roles, and X still gets shafted.
Yeah, but that's an episode of the Grand Zero franchise, which I will argue is not a waste of potential.
Well,
I
I'll,
would say.
I'll only be bringing it up later when we discuss the real faults of the series, but we're just
Yes,
discussing the characters right now, so.
but yeah, Zero is the cooler, big bro type character. He's X's mentor. He is the character in universe. Hey, Maverick's like, all right, I'm on it. No complaints. Just get straight to the business. He's the cool head level one. He's the badass swordsman.
He is, that's, in some regards, a stereotypical warrior.
Yep. He seems to enjoy his job. He doesn't seem to like enjoy pointless fights, like the point, You started shit for this? Ugh, what the frig?
Yeah. I mean,
But he enjoys destroying evil robots. It's because he realizes, someone's got to do it.
may as well
He
enjoy your
doesn't.
work.
Yeah. And in every game, he's usually the cooler of the two characters. X is the emotional, why must people fight? And Zero's on the lines of, look, we could bitch about why people are fighting, or we could stop the fighting.
And to a degree, neither one is 100% wrong.
No. In the hands of most good writers, these two come across as really good friends. They're like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Zero doesn't like that X has to fight. He feels bad for X's emotions, like, oh, poor X. Well, I also do my job. And that's the way he seems to come across in a lot of games. But Zero has his own fair share of tragedy in his life.
I mean, even Zero's admitted sometimes with X's armors, he's gotten a lot stronger to the point where Zero doesn't know if he could beat him in a fight.
It starts off in X1 where Zero can one shot a boss you can't even harm.
Yeah.
And the game ends with Zero sacrificing himself for you because he's realized X has started to reach that infinite potential, which he's
Mm-hmm.
said to have. And while Zero doesn't have X's copy ability, Zero has this a much cooler ability of to watch a boss and to learn how to fight like the boss
He's
by using
essentially the
different,
early version of Sherigan.
only way cooler. Because he, well, I'm just going to point this out. I love this fact. In X6, there's a boss that throws metal anchors. Zero learns how to turn his beam sword into a metal sword and then do a jump down attack with it. How do you, what? Huh? Like, X perfectly copies an attack of a boss. Zero makes his own version, like turn his sword into fire for an upper slash, or dash down with it, or shoot lightning out of his sword. These aren't attacks the bosses have ever done, but somehow by beating these bosses, Zero does.
Mm-hmm.
And they do play very similar. They both have the same movement abilities. They both have a dash. Most games give them a mid or a jump and a dash forward in the
Mm-hmm.
air.
They both got the
They have,
wall jump.
yep. They both use the same health, the same energy recovery. The differences come down to Zero often can jump again in midair. X has his armors that give him bigger dashes or more maneuverability in the air.
Mm-hmm.
X is generally the long range fighter. Most games, Zero's long range option sucks.
Yeah, pretty much after X like 3, that
Five.
arm cannon's gone.
X3 is last than arm cannon's good. It's back in X5. It is crap.
I forgot it was an X5. That's how.
He does one shot. It takes forever to fire, and it does the same amount of damage as one of X's normal shots.
Yeah, because I would have figured X would have gave that back after X1.
I like to think he did, and just Zero's never upgraded it. So this is just the progression of technology has outpaced his arm cannon,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but not his beam saber, the Z saber, which is based off Sigma sword. We'll talk about Sigma later, but the Z saber is in most situations the most powerful weapon in the game. Like not the most powerful attack, but the most powerful weapon in the game.
Yeah, that's why
Especially if you,
its range is.
yeah, it's the balancing.
Yeah.
But if you watch some people with some speed runs, they know how to get past invincibility frames. So Zero just kind of chainsaws his way through shit.
Well, he does spin in the air, so.
He's a buzzsaw sometimes, yeah. But overall, I know a lot of people do prefer Zero over X, which does kind of suck.
I'm more of an X fan for this one, oddly.
And that's totally fine. I mean, when the two of us met, X was so lame. His games were cool, but he was so lame. Soul has actually come around to X by viewing him more along the lines of G1 Optimus Prime
Yeah.
as a very reluctant leader, which uh some of the X games did not paint him like that.
No. I think that has a lot to do with the problem we'll get to later on when we talk about the organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Because it kind of reminds me of a little bit similar problem we had with Samus.
Yeah.
That a bounty hunter is not what it means over here in
Yeah,
Japan.
Japanese, it just sounded cool Japanese without actually learning what it does.
Yeah. So there are some issues with the story, which we
Mm-hmm.
will get to when we more in depth. Right now, we're just giving you the ground basics for it.
Yeah.
This,
So it's the hip, young, new, cool character.
can I trade him in for an old character?
Yeah, sure, why not? Okay. I've grown on Axel over the years. I don't hate him. I just am not crazy about him.
I've never gotten. I
I just think the game we got him in, which was X7, was the worst way to get him.
I will say this. I think he's got cool abilities. I like some of his weapons,
Yes,
but
I like how he takes the basically the trifecta of these characters is X copies the power 1 to 1, Zero learns and makes his own version. Axel, his ability is to turn into the enemies. If they had leaned in on that, he would have been cooler.
I would just like to say this too. This is when they started talking about Ripley's having DNA.
Yeah, no,
Or,
it's not. But this is when they really hammered it home.
well, okay,
It
what I
got
mean is this is where it really started coming up more and being a topic for the game. I'm like, this makes no sense. Makes no sense even for a Mega Man X game. Why are we doing this?
it feels like they did the inverse of everyone who ever says, DNA is like computer code. Yeah, that's in a metaphor sense, not in a literal sense. So someone heard that and thought, oh, that must mean like code is like DNA. I'm like, no, no, that's you've taken the birdie very badly done
I mean, if he was
metaphor.
just taking like their data of how they're constructed and replicating that somehow
Yeah, like
instead
projecting it,
of just,
but he takes the enemy DNA and then refigures his body to be that.
I mean, if he just had some special ability to take their appearance and weapons abilities like that, I could work with that.
Yeah,
But
honestly, it feels like they perfected this idea with Mega Man 11. How Mega Man looks like the bosses.
I never got into
Mm,
11. I never got that one. So
I'm quite surprised. 11's one of the better ones, in my opinion.
I've always meant to buy it, but at the time other things were coming out and it just kind of like went to the back burner.
All right, well, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Anyway,
Axel, okay, in terms of gameplay, Axel does have his double pistols, which fire rapid shots. He doesn't have a big, strong attack. He is the weaker of the three. He's supposed to be the spunky, long range, sniper doing chip damage. He has the same abilities: the dash, the mid-air dash, the wall jump, and he's built in with a hover, which X already had a hover in better games.
mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like he's just. It feels like he's too busy trying to play catch up with X and Zero that I just really.
Yeah,
But at the same,
they introduce him as a hotshot rookie,
mm-hmm.
and by the second game, by the second game he's in X8, which is the last X game we got. He's supposed to be now the third members, the big three. He's the third member, where it feels like he's no longer the tag-along kid, which feels weird to me. Like, how did he go from being the rookie to being on X and Zero's level? In X7, it makes sense why he was so important. It was his story.
Mm-hmm.
And X8, it feels like he's kind of shoehorned in. They could have done more with him to make us actually like the kid.
It just feels like that. I mean, he does have good abilities, but it's like in X7, he was working with. I forgot the name of the organization now. Red something.
Red Alert.
Red Alert. Thank you.
I
So he
always do
had
that because
some
it's transformer.
experience doing work for himself,
Mm-hmm.
but compared to how long X and Zero have been alive at this point, it's not comparable.
Before X7, the two of them have already saved the world, in a sense, 8 times because of two spin-off games.
Mm. And there's no real description how long it's in between each game, so Lord knows how long they've been alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as they keep their parts updated, they technically won't shut down.
Yeah, they're machines. They don't age.
Mm-hmm. And who knows how Light built X to work for longevity.
And the mystery behind Zero is, well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Mm.
But
So,
Axel is a Reploid. He's not like X and Zero. X and Zero are technically hyper advanced androids that cannot fully be copied.
because as we forgot to mention, the replicated part in Reploid is that pretty much every Reploid, except for certain cases that came up later, are all replicated based on X's design.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll discuss that where that came from in just a few minutes. But basically, every Reploid is technically an offspring from X.
Yeah,
So,
that guy they didn't call him Mega Man Adam. That would have been pretentious.
oh my god, I don't know what would be more pretentious, that or just I don't know. I can't think of a comparative for that.
Mm.
So, I mean,
But
but like I was saying, Axel just
he doesn't wow us. He's
he.
just
I think my major problem was that I didn't like his character, like not his design, but his attitude and everything coming into the franchise.
yeah. He
Um,
really does feel like the Poochie.
yeah, and then that he felt like he was to me, he felt like an inferior X.
Really does. And the worst part is in X7, you have only him and Zero to choose from because X is in his worst stage of being written.
Oh my god, I was waiting for him to start cutting himself with that. I'm like, Jesus Christ, X.
Yeah, it's not a good look. And I do think how bad X7 is in the fan base did hurt Axel
I
the
mean, I don't
most.
condone that thing. Please don't get me wrong, but Jesus Christ.
Honestly, I'm just going to make a comparison. Axel is Silver the Hedgehog. A decent idea of a character introduced in a terrible game that nobody can stop thinking about when they think of that character, which sucks because I actually kind of like Silver the Hedgehog. I think he deserves better, but he ain't getting it. I don't think Axel's getting it either.
I mean, if you like Axel, that's fine and everything, but
Oh yeah,
I can
enjoy
see where
it.
his character came from, but I think my problem is that he really doesn't feel any different than X to me. And as like, I already have X. I like X. I like X's weapons. Why do I need this?
Yeah, I like I said, if they leaned into his copying the forms more and made that more interesting, we
A-
could have had like a nice trifecta.
And he needed some sort of different weapon. Like making him ranged like X just felt
But you can't make him close range like Zero. What do you do?
maybe have a. I guess kind of put him back where Zero was. Give him something that's kind of in the middle. Because it gave him no close range options unless you beat a boss. Zero had both, but his long range was shit,
It's long range.
or his
I
long
think,
range. But
yeah. Anyway,
I mean, to be fair, yes, I can't think of a better answer. But at the same time, it's like the problem is that he's just
yeah.
a.
Their response when he beats a boss is not being able to turn into them, but getting a random weapon based off the boss. Like you beat the Yeti, so you get a Gatling gun that shoots ice. What?
And in some regards, that's what X does. He gets the boss's weapon in a sense. So it's
Yeah.
kind of still, in my opinion.
The difference is their ammunition is different, and Axel can never make a bigger charge shot of Boss's weapons. But again, that feels like I don't. I think they threw Axel in before they fully baked him,
Yeah.
and then when X8 came along, they just figured, he's good enough as is.
You know what would have been better for him?
Mm.
Being more able to copy, because they used to in X7, he used to be able to take copy data and transform into the enemies on the stage.
You can do that in X8 too, but there's so few times to do it.
I'm just saying they should have leaned more in with that. It could have been a little level breaking,
Mm.
but I think that's where where it wasn't fully baked for him was is that because it would have broke the game, they didn't let him do it as often as he could have.
Yeah,
Now, the all this also part of the explanation because he couldn't replicate mechanoids, so fair enough.
yeah.
Maybe
He
there's some
couldn't.
difference
He can't
between
get
that and everything, but
bigger or smaller, which does let him on bosses, which is okay-ish.
I mean, could you
But
imagine if you could copy some of the larger Reploids in the stage and then go with that to fight the boss?
fun.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% make sense, but
No,
I just, like I said, I just feel he's too much of an X clone.
yeah. And just a side thing about Axel is because of that, a lot of people don't put him in fan games because he's hard to find a thing for.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been talking about them fighting, and they fight as a group called the Maverick Hunters. This is their logo. A Maverick is any Reploid that has broken the laws.
Mm-hmm.
Anything from like vandalism to out and out murder of human or other mechanoid or
Right.
other machines. And makes sense. Like you don't give free will without at least having some form of justice.
Now, there are, let's be frank, there were going to be divisions between the humans and robots by some people. It's not.
Yeah.
I
You
think
don't
that's
well,
also where the game fell flat, is that it didn't really dive into it that well.
no, we start with the world already having Mavericks and Reploids everywhere. Like, hey, I found this amazing robot that has free will. I'm gonna duplicate it. And now my duplications are out the entire world.
I mean, for an opening game, that was fine. It set an establishment, and it was just a side shoot 'em up, like
Yeah.
basically the
This what
jump shoot man.
this was the 90s SNES. Of course, story was going to be, well, paper thin because the manuals were pretty much the only place you got most of the
Hmm.
story back in the days. They
And
did
as you
have
said, it was a
some
SNES game. They only had so much data on that, even with it being 32-bit, and or was it still 16?
16-bit.
Okay, they didn't jump.
32-bit was technically the Saturn. No, 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 that was the add-on to the Sega Genesis.
Yeah,
The next consoles were 64-bit.
yeah. The Super Nintendo did the weird thing with the cartridge to bump it up, but that's not the point.
Yeah, yeah,
But they only had so much they could do with the cartridges at the time, so story was a little lighter than.
yeah. And unless you were a RPG, nobody was expecting a story.
Mhm. And plus,
Which,
I did appreciate them focusing a little bit more, on making sure the gameplay was there.
honestly, I think the SNES era is the tightest in terms of gameplay.
I can't
My
argue
favorite
that, but
My favorite is not in the SNES era, because I'm a strange beast who thinks X6 is the best X game, even though the vast majority are in a hard debate if X6 is the worst or X7 is the worst. And I'm just insulted you put X6 anywhere near X7.
okay, down, boy, down.
No,
Relax.
no, no, no. I will defend X6 because it's actually a good game. It's
We'll
just
get
really
there, Em.
stupid and
We'll get.
hard.
You'll have your piece for this. Just let's get through this.
Never! Never
So,
be no
one
peace!
of the weird things here is that with the Replifor, or not the Replifors, the Maverick Hunters, they have the obvious hunters, which is what they call the units that go out and hunt Mavericks.
Yeah,
The navigators, which are pretty much the stay at the base and give data out and talk on the comms.
yeah, you're navigating to where you need to go.
Mm-hmm. The mechanic crew, which works on the bikes and the ride armors, which we'll show off later.
Mhm.
And then you have the doctors.
Which the difference between a robot's mechanics and a car's mechanics, there's going to be some. Plus, you probably do need doctors when you rescue humans.
Yeah, but I just kind of think the naming's weird. It's just my
Yeah,
way my
you're
brain
not
works, and I was like,
you're not wrong about that. But the thing is in the X franchise, you only ever see one human.
yeah. To be fair,
At
if
least,
they said like Replicant Engineer, I would have
yeah,
understood that a little bit better. But they just flat out call him a doctor.
I think it just is colloquial shorthand.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Doc kind of does roll off easier than Engineer.
Yeah, because you might get confused with the build the bike and fix a guy's
I need
leg.
to see an engineer. Do you mean the guy working on your bike or the guy working on your arm? Both.
Robot's already shut down because it took too long to get an answer.
So, but I just say like that. Just always just
Yeah,
so.
and the Maverick Hunters have split groups as well. There's split into units. X leads the 17th unit. We never see the 17th unit. Zero leads the Zero unit. We never see the Zero unit. The Zero unit is also referred to the Shinobi unit, which means Zero's a ninja.
To be fair, we've only seen I think only like two members of the 17th now.
We've seen we've seen two or three former members of the Zero unit. They become Mavericks though.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say this: it is very fitting that Zero becomes a ninja. After all, his dad was one too.
I knew you were gonna bring that up.
No, it's good. It's good.
But
Here's a smoke bomb.
the weird thing is that this is where it comes down to the weird thing with the bounty hunter.
Mm,
Because technically this should be a military organization. It's
yeah,
practically ran one as one in the games because it has an answer to the UN, which I've stated a couple of times.
I believe so. Yes, or that might just be the comics.
Maybe in comics it kind of bleeds together sometimes.
Yeah, there's so little in terms of the behind the scenes lore that the two of us not only latch onto every like manga and comic and side story. We're just gonna come out and say this: the two of us met in a text RPG role playing of Mega Man X.
Hmm.
So our own lore has kind of blended in there because there's just so much gaps.
And this is one of the biggest ones in my opinion.
How does this organization work? Why we only ever see X Zero and now Axel, or the people we have to rescue along the way,
Or the people that blow up along the way.
or the ones that were former Mavericks that turn, and it's a big deal that all of a sudden Magma Dragoon, who is a loyal and tough Maverick hunter, is now a Maverick. We've never met him.
I mean, remember Double?
Yeah,
When did you come into the Hunters, and why does X know you so well?
or why is this X just assume like I don't know? It's the thing about the waste potential of the Mega Man franchise is they set up this wonderful foundation and then walk away.
Mm-hmm. And then when they came back to it with the PSP edition,
They started world building. They really did.
yeah, they even got managed
And
to make a movie for it.
the problem is they put it on the PSP.
Yeah, that may not have been the best move.
I mean, PSP was a fine. I never actually saw more than two in my entire life.
Yeah, I had one. I have my Vita, but the one analog stick doesn't work. I keep meaning to find a place to fix that.
I almost bought a PSP because of this game, but then I looked at the price of the PSP and the game, and like, you know, there were only two PSP games I wanted. They were both Mega Man remakes.
But moving on, the backstory to the game, while simplistic, was somewhat endearing, really, because it raises a lot of questions. It draws you in, but
Mm-hmm.
there's never any answers that come out. It just kind of shoves more lore in there that comes out of nowhere. Reploids have DNA, which I think they called RNA, if I remember right. But
For one game, and then went back to DNA.
yeah, so it's kind of like they introduced things and then they changed things, which I think was around the time the creator left, so that might have been part of the problem.
Well, yeah, I don't, Inafune wasn't too big on the story side of it either, though, so it shouldn't have affected that much, from what I understand.
Eh, yeah, but
Shouldn't have.
you don't know who else left too. You just heard that
That's
he
true.
left, and then
Several staff did leave around the same time as him, or were shuffled around, so you're not wrong.
so I'm just saying like that also leaves a couple of questions that people just find this and just jam what they wanted in there without
Mm-hmm.
direction from people that were originally get the game, or was there just no direction? They were just pumping out games because as much as I like 1, 2, and 3, there's very little besides a couple of the characters connecting them that
Mm-hmm.
it could have been just steamrolled out. I mean, they're still
Honestly,
good games. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but let's continue on.
yes.
This jolly fellow is not Santa Claus.
It could have been, though. It could have been. But instead of bringing good toys to all the good boys and girls and those in between, he brings advances in robot technology.
I consider the same thing.
This is Dr. Light, also sometimes referred to as Dr. Wright.
Thomas Late, by the way.
Yes, he is based off terrible person Thomas Edison, because the Japanese have a better view of Thomas Edison than history now reflects of him.
Yeah, well, at least they still got a better vision of him than they do of the next character, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the reason why they have a bad vision of the next
I'm
character
not
is
saying they're
because,
not justified in that, but let's keep it here. Let's keep it with Late for the moment.
yeah, I just, side note, I can't stand Thomas Edison.
But
Dr. Light is basically too pure for this world in a sense. He really does
well,
believe.
here's the problem. All we really know about him from the games was that he created robots to help humanity.
Mm-hmm.
He backs up Light, and he was friends with Dr. Wily. That's it.
Yep. We also know that he really wants humans and robots to be the best of friends forever and never, 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 and there'll never be any consequences.
A lot better gets described in the Mega Man comics,
Mm-hmm. We're just going to
which
say it right now. Like we said on the Sonic episodes, the reason why I like Ian Flynn so much is because of his handling of Mega Man. He wrote Dr. Light so lovely.
mm-hmm.
And he wasn't afraid to point out Dr. Light's stupidity.
Now this is going from the comics, and they could have included this into a lot of the games. And I felt in some instances they tried, but they never
Mm-hmm.
really went into it. In the comics, Doctor Light is, as M put it, a pure person. He believes the best. He's not stupid, but he's the
He's
type of
always,
person that if he doesn't reach his hand out, he'll regret it.
mm-hmm, even to a mass murderer in a sense.
And the
Although,
thing about it is that I'll bring it up now. When he and Wily first started the robot series in Mega Man in the comics, Light did not realize how famous he was getting and that how that was hurting Wily. Not because he was being a jerk. Well, it was, but not intentionally. He just didn't
no,
understand it.
he he honestly thought praise was being shared on both of them.
And he was just excited to share their work to the world. He had no ill intent towards Wiley.
No, which we'll get to that in a second when we get to Dr. Wily,
Mm-hmm.
because he's still important. Okay, Light and Dr. Wily are the two driving forces in the Mega Man franchise. This is 100 or so years later. In a sense, the X franchise is just their last ghost still fighting.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
And we
that
do,
really doesn't end until the Zero series. Let's be honest.
yeah, and we do kind of literally mean ghosts because just because Dr. Light is technically dead does not mean he doesn't stop appearing.
Yeah, about Doctor Light being dead, as it were.
We mentioned X's armors. Well, X gets them by finding capsules hidden out the stages
Mm-hmm.
that contain a hologram of Dr. Light that is aware of what's going on.
Now, this
Is
is easily hand-waved as being an artificial intelligence. Don't
yeah,
get me wrong. There's
did
nothing.
Light scan his brain and this hologram program is running off what he would think? Is it just a really advanced AI that looks like him without his brainwaves? But many fans like to think this is his ghost. He's a ghost in the machine.
My
Because
biggest problem with this is that they don't take advantage of it.
no, there's only one capsule I find really interesting, and that's one of the times when Zero finds a light capsule. And they have a quick conversation. It's very interesting, but it ends with Zero going, I don't really care about my past.
But just picture this for a moment, people. X comes up to the capsule. Up pops the man who created him.
He has data tracks of Dr. Light talking about his potential, how much he's looking forward to X becoming a real boy.
Yeah, in the PSP version, they're more like vague memories that pop up under certain extreme situation, but
He does know what Dr. Light looks like.
he knows of this man. Like, even if he didn't, he would have learned about him from the world around him, being
Or,
Light's last known creation.
yeah. But he never really says anything like, do you know more about the creator?
Why did you
I
make me? What are you doing here? Like, there is no interaction besides these two staring at each other like a
How did
brick
you
wall.
know I needed a capsule in this location?
Um, like, if this is an AI or even this Ghost in the Machine, either or, you'd think there'd be more interaction between these two.
Yeah, like the biggest question most fans have always asked is how the hell are these capsules always in Maverick stages that we're currently going to? Like you could believe that Light would have hidden capsules around the world, but how is it that Capsule 1 in this stage and Capsule 2 in this stage are actually compatible? What are the odds?
Some fans theorize that the AI is a home base and still building armors and
Yeah,
somehow launch these or have them drilled through the ground.
I like to picture an army little of Metools just carrying the capsule, trying to sneak behind enemy lines, put it in places X will go to.
What are you
Like,
tools moving over there? Beep beep. Carry on then.
oh, okay, carry on. And then it's like, all right, put this in this weird jumping puzzle. X cannot help but climb these weird jumping puzzles. X running to the base. I should stop the evil. Hey, jumping puzzle.
But like I said, even putting that aside, I just can't imagine why they didn't do more with X with this thing.
Oh yeah, I'm
Like,
not actually complaining about where they're put. I'm just saying when you think about it, like don't think about that stuff. That's just
that's gameplay.
yeah, that's
That's
fun.
headwave
That
gameplay. It doesn't make
this is
sense, but at the same time, it's gameplay.
this is what happens to me when I don't have a new game in a franchise. I start looking back at the old ones and poking the flaws out because I want more stuff from these old games, and they
Yeah,
have
but
nothing
I'm
else
just
to
saying,
give
like,
me.
this is a big enough flaw as it is that there's no interaction. Like, it's like this is a new piece of armor for you. It does this. Bye. Boop. Uh, okay. I'll just stand here and not have absolutely no reaction to this.
Yeah, very few games he ever talks like capsules,
Like X doesn't even say anything. He just listens and goes,
and
"Okay."
we're not. And we should just mention at one point Doctor Light teaches him the Hadouken, and then another point the Shoryuken.
Hey,
And the time he teaches the Hadouken, he's dressed like Ryu for Street Fighter. So, ugh.
every man needs a hobby besides what his work is.
I just want to picture like at one point during the Street Fighter franchise, they start a fight busting into Dr. Light's lab, and he just kicks the crap out of Akuma and Ryu for messing up his papers.
I told you to take it outside.
Punk kids.
But yeah, it's just amazing that there was this huge opportunity staring them right in the face.
It's basically every orphan kid's dream to see their parent and then get to ask questions, but rather than that, X just goes, okay. I have new guns.
I mean, that's the only real reason why I question if it's an AI.
Yeah, is
But
X like look at it and go, okay, that's not like it doesn't have answers, like it's just coded into not to ask questions. But he has free will, so he should still be allowed to ask questions.
and I just don't see like doing something like that.
No, that seems
Like,
really creepy.
yeah,
He wanted X to have freedom, except for asking my pods questions. Can't ask those pods questions.
and even if that
Hmm.
were true, you think if they were trying to build a story, someone, one of the other employees would have brought that up.
Yeah, like the only people who's ever interacted with the pod capsules are X, Zero, and I don't think even Axel can interact with them.
And did X just leave them where they were after he got the armor pieces?
Or do the Met Tools just show up and pick up the piece in the container and run off with it?
Or is he reusing the containers? Is that
I
why they
hope
never collected them?
I hope so. They're probably very expensive to make. Who's financing this? He's dead.
Well, it's assumed Light had a mass fortune, so
Yeah, but now I'm just picturing a Met Tool trying to use his money. Like,
yeah. I
oh
mean,
yes, this check is signed by Doctor
to,
Light. He's dead.
it is canon that Wiley and Light made the Sniper Joe series originally as military weapon designers.
Yeah.
If anybody knows the Sniper Joe series, they're pretty much the jerks that hide behind a shield and snipe you with a gun and then go back behind the shield. This was one of
Sure.
their designs, and they sold it to the military, and that started their robotics career essentially.
Mhm.
So they were rich until someone got butthurt, really.
Yeah. This is Dr. Albert Wiley. Yes, based off Albert Einstein. Yeah, you can understand why the Japanese still don't like Einstein.
Yeah, it.
Yeah, let's. I can't argue that. Not like it. Yeah,
I can't argue the reason why. I can argue that it wasn't Albert's intent, but that's not the point of this
that's
conversation.
splitting hairs. And let's face it, Wiley already has enough hairs as is.
Yeah.
Yes, his hair is kind of stylized like bat wings.
Yeah, it's kind of his motif. That and
He likes
skulls.
bats and skulls.
The skull's on his belt.
So essentially, the reason why Wiley is still about is his ultimate creation is Zero.
Mm-hmm.
Zero doesn't remember his primary functions for a multitude of reasons.
One of those reasons is, if I remember correctly, he had installed of him what is called a suffering chip
I believe so,
or
but
a
again,
suffrage chip,
that could
but
be
that
fan
is
wankery. Long story short, Zero's been damaged, rebuilt without Wiley's intent for world
mhm.
domination.
Well, as many times as he's
Also,
been rebuilt, I'm not surprised he's lost some programming along the line.
yeah, you probably can't remember what Tuesdays are. Let's just say here, Zero kind of has Optimus Prime syndrome, as in he dies and rises again in 3 days.
Yeah.
It's useful. But Wiley also intended Zero to destroy Light's ultimate creation. He is my nemesis. You must destroy him.
Hmm. Now, whether or
Zero.
not Wiley knew about X is up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what happened post the X or pre the X series,
We're never going to find out.
yeah, they're
There's a fan theory called the Catalysm, which has been debunked by CatPow multiple times.
yeah. I don't know if it was Keiichi Inafune was creator. I think the name.
And if Unifune was the creator of the Mega Man, well, he wasn't the creator; he was one of the main creators of
Okay.
Mega Man and
So
X franchises.
well, my point is, I don't know if the creators were denying it or it's just Capcom. I'm not 100.
Both,
percent Okay, so I was 100% on that.
yeah. Inafune denied it, and then years later, after he left, people asked Capcom. Capcom's like, no.
Which just leaves even more questions.
But the thing about Wily is he is a ghost in the machine. There are two canonic characters and one canonic game he sort of appears in, but he appears as the X Hunter in X2 Serges, the leader of the X Hunters. He is either downloaded into Surges or is possessing Surges. He appears in X5 as Sigma's backer for that game, and his voice is in that game. And in X6, he is Isaac, because at
Hmm.
one point Isaac stops functioning as if his very program was removed. We don't know if this is a literal haunting or a digital haunting, as in Wiley wrote a program to jump from machine to machine to carry out his will.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is, while he's as Serges or Isaac, he's not the usual Wily. He's behind the scenes manipulating, which he's done in several Mega Man games.
Mm-hmm.
4 and 6, he hid in the shadows. No, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
But in
And it
those
wouldn't be his
games,
first time hijacking robots either.
no, it wouldn't be. It's kind of his thing.
Yeah.
So we don't know the extent of Wily's legacy.
The only things we do know is that A, he was jealous of Light.
Mm-hmm.
B, he has a huge chip on his shoulder.
C, he thinks he would better control the world than the world is as itself.
Mm-hmm.
And D, he really doesn't like Light's current machines. He wants his old machine to destroy them.
Mm-hmm. Now,
And I'm fine with Wily being this ambiguous. Is he a ghost? Is he a ghost in the machine?
mm-hmm.
Is he a program? Or are Isaac and Douglas and Isaac and Serges literal just robots he built to act like him? And once they complete their function, they shut down. Like there's no behind the scenes stuff. They were always built like that.
I just thought
We
of another option that kind of pops in my head.
mm,
This is somebody else using Wily's intent name to make it their own scheme.
I'm fine with that being that too. We even know who that might be.
Yeah, he pops up in 8.
No, he pops up in 03 and 04.
Oh, I was thinking a different. I was thinking that more along with the own Zero series, but he could do it
That's fine.
too.
He would be more likely one to do it.
Yeah.
He is basically the
Hell, he
inheritor of
probably
Wily's
made
DNA.
Luminate too, so what the hell?
Would be surprised.
No, it wouldn't be either.
But
But to try and help draw attention away from him to make his own evil scheme, so I could completely see that.
yeah, which we might get to when we get to the Zero
But
franchise.
once again, real quick before we move on, much like I know I brought up before with Light, in the comics, he's written very well. Wily is, as I said, he is a lot more jealous type.
Yeah, he's petty. He's been hurt, and he just wants his due respect. And he feels like the only way I'm going to get my respect is if I force the world to look
Mm-hmm.
at me.
It kind of comes down to it that if he was a little bit less jealous and just saw Light for what Light actually was,
Yeah,
he may not have been as jealous and bitter as he was in the comics.
and if life gave him slightly a better shake, and if Light was slightly more aware of his own
Mm-hmm.
magnetism, that he would have been. Wily basically, he's a monster. He really is, but he didn't have to be.
No, but at the same time, his choices are still his own.
They're his own. By this point, he is irredeemable.
Mm-hmm.
He
Because it
was
reminds me in the
redeemable.
comics, I forget it was, I think it was between 4 and 5, where Light was giving Wily that other chance to work beside him again. There were
It was the adaptation of 3,
okay, there was 3. Okay,
the Gamma story.
yeah, because he was given a chance to rehabilitate with certain restrictions behind it because he tried to take over the
Um,
world 3 times. Let's be
yeah,
or 2 times at least,
3 actually. 4?
multiple times. Let's just go with multiple times.
Okay, 3 if you don't count the Sonic crossover.
But he did try and conquer the world and probably got a couple of people harmed, if not outright killed. So,
Yeah, we never see what his kill count, but
there was at least in the triple digits, I'm betting.
gotta be because he's taking control of robots that control power plants. He's definitely shut down hospitals by accident.
So, yeah, he was allowed to work under conditions to try and rehabilitate. For a minute there, it looked like it was actually going to fall through.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate to say it, Roll kind of spoiled that one.
Yeah, she wasn't
For
wrong, but she wasn't right.
She was right, but her way of going about it was kind of a dickish. But at the same time,
Yes.
after being kidnapped like twice, I don't blame her either.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like I said, I don't blame her, but anywho,
Mm-hmm.
let's continue on with the X franchise.
This is Dr. Kane.
The only human you see, and he stops showing up after a while. He is the one he's an archaeologist technically.
Yeah, if you
He
can tell by
found.
how he looks, he pretty much died, I think, after X3.
We have no idea whatever happened. They never confirmed if he died, if he did or did not die.
Well, in the PSP game, that was kind of confirmed, but that's a whole different kind of worms we'll get to at the end of this.
Yes, he's the one who dug up the hidden bunker of Light's lab, found X after his 30 plus years of being taught right from wrong,
Mm.
and progressed to making the Reploids. I don't know how an archaeologist does that, going from finding, you know, lost civilizations to building a robot
Well, from what
empire.
I understand, and this is canon because I do remember this being in the manual,
Mm-hmm.
he found X and a long line of a lot of the blueprints Dr. Light left behind in the bunker.
Well, just because you have the blueprints does not mean you know how to use them.
Well, I'm just saying, and what I would assume he did was that he probably had other friends in the community of the world
Mm-hmm.
and probably just went to a couple backers and said, hey, this is Light's last work. Work with me and we can make something incredible. Because this is X, the last work of Dr. Light. Because he has proof. Like, there's no one that can deny this isn't a Light lab at this point. So, a lot of people would be interested in Light's last work. So, I can't imagine trying to find some funding and being interested in X for its historical value. Kane would just up and abandon X either.
Yeah.
So I think he was just trying to best in two worlds and just got into robotics thanks to studying X. Because when he first discovers X, X is mostly a blank slate.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like he's probably got some basic knowledge, like this is a human, this is a plant, but he has no interaction with anybody for 100 years.
Yeah.
So there is the question of because as M said, he
They got
X was supposed to be diagnostic for learning right and wrong for 30 years. Something happened, and he was down there for 100. So Kane only has his understanding that he's been there for 100 years, learning right and wrong, has schematics, and this is the last work of Dr. Light. And Dr. Light's work in the past was generations ahead. And from what he understood, probably what he went to other people and showed them the blueprints, probably, this was still years ahead of what anybody else was had on the table.
yeah.
So I can't imagine him getting any funding or any help for this was out of the question.
It'd be like if we basically dug up Leonardo da Vinci and he literally had a real life working perpetual motion machine blueprint.
Mm-hmm. So the process to making Reploids is easily understood. Like the last work of the famous Dr. Light.
Yeah. My biggest problem with Dr. Kane, though, is literally he's the only human we see. This is basically the robot world,
And
but
we
it's
technically
not
don't even
supposed to.
see him.
We see him for like a couple of cutscenes, like X enters the base through teleportation, gets some information from Kane, and then teleports out to fight the next boss.
Oh yeah, that was actually, wasn't it?
One and two.
I don't
Or no,
remember him.
two and three, two and three, two and three.
Okay, it was two. Okay, because I don't remember him in one.
Because he's the one who rebuilds Zero.
Right.
Most
Okay.
and after I think X4's last time he's mentioned in game, and after X4, nobody speaks of him ever again.
Yeah, which is why I'm assuming like because he looks old even in this picture, and by the time
Yeah,
X1 rolled
I'm
around,
not
he
saying
was
I'm not saying I'm surprised he's dead. It just feels like okay, he helped create the Reploid. You'd think he'd still be a conversation point for now and then.
especially for like I once again going back to the comics, just so nobody's confused about what I'm trying to say. It felt like he felt like a sort of a stepfather to X, or even like a
Yeah,
weird
an uncle.
grandfather. But he had an interest in studying X, but he also treated X as a person
Yeah,
because
and he also, much like X, laments the fighting of Reploids. He established, I believe, in the comics, the Maverick Hunters, but he
mhm,
disliked having to do that. If X sees himself as the father of Reploids, K also kind of sees himself as that.
mhm. And in all purposes, Kane was brought out to be a good-hearted person.
He means well.
Yeah,
He
he
just feels like to me that he saw Light's blueprints and goes, "Ooh, I gotta build this," and then 5 minutes are, "Oh, there are consequences to this."
yeah, he literally was the one that opened Pandora's box without being ready. But
You can close this box right now.
but once again, that comes down to a couple of questions. Is it because of faulty design when they built the Reploids? Is it because they don't have the
The 30
designated time
plus
learn
years.
right and wrong X had?
Is some company just cheaping out on things for Reploids?
I mean, Reploids were mass produced, so mass production does not equal quality buildmanship.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you heard about cars having a default in them?
if X was only supposed to be under 30 years, what was 100 years? Was the extra 70 years needed, or was that just overkill?
Was X actually a very slow learner?
So, I mean,
And
I'd be
having
fine if we
lost,
never learned the answer to that.
yeah, these are more like I said. We need more X content, so we're just going to keep poking this until we get something out of it.
Hmm. I think at this
Please,
point we're
because
never going to get anything out of it.
yeah, we have to rely on fan games, which Capcom don't take them down.
Yeah, really, that one that's I think it was Jakey Bay Productions.
Yeah, corruptions.
Oh yeah, that one. If anybody get a
Mm,
chance, go look at Mega Man X Corruptions. That game is looking
mm.
phenomenal.
Oh God, it's never.
But
Anyway, carry on.
this is Colonel.
Colonel Who?
That's it.
I know. See, eventually we have other factions of Maverick Hunters. We already mentioned Red Alert with Axel, but Repliforce is the first. These ones are 100% a military-based organization of Reploids to fight. Mm,
Yeah, that kind of like they were an organization before X4.
yeah,
Like they were clear established because they just brought the name up and it's like, oh, it's that group. Who?
yeah, yeah. Again, we don't know much about the world. Uh, Due to their accents, a lot of people I know think they're British.
Well, with the way Irish sounds and the way they kind of act sometimes, I could see that.
Yes.
But is this
Uh,
like the Repliforce was like the British organization of
yeah.
Reploids? Like,
Is it like when the UK left the European nations, so they needed to make their own Maverick Hunters because the Maverick Hunters only work for the EU and something like that? I don't know, because we don't even know where the Maverick Hunters are stationed. We assume Japan because, you know, much like how many American media, a lot of Japanese media think everything happens in Japan and nowhere else in the world.
no, no. See, they were located somewhere,
Where?
somewhere.
Where?
I told you, somewhere.
Where
Uh,
are you going? But yeah, Repliforce is the big bad of X4. They get tricked by the actual big bad of the series to do evil things for evil reasons.
to be fair, the original idea Repliforce had was that they were just going to leave the planet Earth and go somewhere else. Because being a robot means they don't have to breathe.
Do we need to pack these oxygen tanks? No. Okay then.
They actually wished no ill will towards the humans. They just wanted to leave.
But what was this paramilitary group designed for? Is this like for fighting humans, fighting enemy mavericks? Is it for another army to have a proxy war with? So Reploid versus Reploid for the sake of a proxy war. I don't know what Reploid Force was designed for originally. We never find out.
I mean,
We assume it's another anti-maverick group.
but was this because the Maverick Hunters weren't enough? Like, if they're not enough, give them more numbers. Like, this is not.
Is it because the Maverick Hunters are a private military group, or are the Reptile Force a private military group, and the Maverick Hunters are a public group?
Like, there's just not enough info on this one. And this is really when Mega Man X really started trying to do story development, and it just kind of faltered in so many places.
They have a good idea. I like the idea if they are of a rival Maverick Hunter group that is way more military, and because of this rigidity, they're not as flexible as the Hunters, but they look much better on paper.
Yeah, because of the way the Mavericks work, which we'll explain in a little bit, the Maverick Hunters have to be very flexible. There's no denying that one.
Yeah,
While they do have certain, I would imagine, certain rules and laws set upon them, they also have to
yeah.
be flexible to respond to everything.
Hmm.
So I could only imagine if they're worldwide, which I can't imagine them not being.
Yeah,
I
the
could imagine
Reptile.
certain nations having their own immediate response group that would be there on the spot.
Yeah, but it's pretty obvious how Reptile Force acts in the game. They're also worldwide. They've got a base in the jungle. They've got a base in the Arctic.
So
That at least says they're in more than one nation. Because I don't know any place in the world with both a jungle and an Arctic tundra.
fair enough.
And even if these are simulated uh, environments, that's still a lot of work to do, which would probably be different nations.
Yeah, but like I said, they just didn't want to deal with the problems between humans and Reploids, which the Mavics were not helping that situation at all.
No, if you know, you're worried your neighbor, the replica, anyone go on a killing spree, you're gonna have a bad view of robots in general.
Yeah, it's not like there was any real answer to the Mavericks currently besides calling the Maverick Hunters and hope they show up in time to save your ass.
Pretty sheer devastation going everywhere. I mean, this is once again, I'm going to pull up the Archie comics. Ian Flynn, he created a group called the Emerald Spears, based off the company Ruby Spears that made the Megaman cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
But the Emerald Spears is a anti-technology or anti-robot league of humans. That would have been really good for a game. Like, how do the Mavericks Hunters deal with a group of human Mavericks in a sense,
Oh,
breaking the
the
law?
anti-technology people using technology to take out the evil robots. Zero, stop antagonizing them.
God, I love that so goddamn much. But
But
yeah, that would have been really interesting. Could you imagine them versus Repliforce and the hunters are stuck in between? Because technically, the spears are breaking the law, and technically the Repliforce is breaking the law, but the Repliforce is only breaking the law to protect themselves.
I mean, that also would have brought up the whole point of putting the Reploid in incarceration.
It also brings up a really good point about Reploid's free will. But again, this was a PS1/Sega Saturn game, so they didn't have much time for story.
I mean, to be fair, at least they tried something more since they were going over to the PS1
Yeah.
era with the CDs, which could hold a lot more data than the cartridges could.
Instead, they decided to hold terrible voice acting.
Oh God, X, Jesus Christ, go back to being mute and just having text pop up.
No, Eggs is a little girl.
Oh,
I kid. My favorite voice actor for X is one of the most manly voices ever, Domon Kashu's voice.
yeah,
Anyway, X4 is the first game with a zero story, and it's kind of a tragic story.
yeah. Meet Iris, everybody.
She's technically Colonel's sibling, which could mean anything, as in they came out the same factory, same designer, or they were literally built as a pair. But anyway, she is a navigator for the Hunters on loan from Force.
So, did Repliforce and Maverick Hunters get along at some point, or is she just doing it because she likes Zero?
It's pretty clear she likes Zero.
No, I'm saying, is that why she is on
Yeah,
loan? Like, that's
yeah.
never explained.
She's in two games: the Game Boy Color game Megaman Extreme 2, Extreme 2. She's in
I was
Extreme
gonna say,
2.
wasn't she in the second one? Yeah.
Sorry, I thought. Anyway, and X4. Extreme 2, she is implied to be her first time interacting with X and Zero. She helps them through that game. And then X4, she only helped Zero through his side of the story, which is the exact same story of X's.
Yeah, guess what? She never has any real interaction with X.
No, she does not. And because her brother is part of Repliforce and they both listen to General, who is the leader of Repliforce, that is his literal name, General.
Oof.
I mean, to be fair, they're machines. Someone would not. A lot of people wouldn't give them names. It's just
Yeah,
laziness.
but you can only name so many models Colonel before you get confused.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, it leads to her being torn. Does she side with her brother and Reploids who want freedom, or does she side with the robot she's fallen madly in love with?
And fortunately for that, she's a pacifist. Like, well, actually, she's just a pacifist. I was gonna say like X, but X is not a pacifist.
No. The problem is Zero has to defeat Colonel, kills him. Iris takes Colonel's battle core and becomes a battle robot to avenge her brother out of pure grief. Oh, then she really just wanted Zero to join them in space for the place Reploids that could be by themselves. And Zero's like, that can't exist. We can't exist without humans. Only this is done terribly voice acted and led to the meme of what am I fighting for? And that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, Iris is only ever mentioned in the future games as tiny little like Easter eggs
Yeah,
when she easily could have been Zero's lost Lenore, if you know that trope.
which is like I said. I
Based,
think this was at the point where no, I'm sorry, Keiji
Z-
Ifune left at 6
yeah, he
because I
left
remember.
between 5 and 6.
Yeah, because but
Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons why. Well, no,
yeah.
he didn't leave. He just stopped producing the games. He left after Dead Rising. That was the last game for Capcom I believe he worked
Oh
on.
yeah, I forgot he worked on that one.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I like Dead Rising. Anyway, now we can finally talk about Sigma.
Yeah,
The
Mr. Butchin.
yeah, we don't. He literally has a cleft chin that looks like a butt.
Yeah, Mr. Clean really let himself go with this one.
Yeah, he's the end of the game final boss every time. Even when the game tries to make you think he's not going to be there, he be there. Except for one game where he's not the final boss, but he kind of still is.
Yeah,
Actually, it has a weird story. A
really
bad
weird.
story though. But Sigma is the former head of the Maverick Hunters. He's the charismatic leader who got the Hunters to unify and be a great organization, and then he turned around and started being a Maverick himself. And
Yep,
every
he
game since
was,
he comes back from the dead.
and I believe he was also. I think this is also canon for the games. He was also Dr. Kane's greatest designed Reploid for the Maverick Hunters.
He is said to be Kane's masterpiece in
Hmm.
terms of leadership, charismatic, and tactical understanding.
So he was pretty much designed to be a Maverick Hunter. End of story.
You know what's the thing that happens? Not Kane and Light, not Kane and Sigma ever from conversation. That's not what happens.
Oh God, no! Why would they do that?
I think it's hinted at in the PSP movie, but
They actually do have a conversation in the PSP movie, which is the
it's
I
Day
think
of
it was
Sigma.
Day of Sigma. Thank you.
That's when Sigma actually turns, and
Yeah, it's pre X1, pretty
yeah.
much. And
Now Sigma is one of those characters you have to really like him or you really don't like him, but his philosophy is extreme social Darwinism to the point of machine better than human. Why have human?
yeah, he
And I might as well put myself as the most powerful Reploid. I'll rule the Reploid world. Just out of the goodness of my spark.
right. We'll get that in a moment.
Yeah, he
Sigma, for the start of it, was thought to be the originator of the Sigma virus.
the Maverick virus is also referred to as because
Hmm.
sometimes Reploids start malfunctioning as in data corruption from a computer virus, which is linked back to Sigma, so it's sometimes referred to as the Sigma virus.
Right.
It is how he also comes back from the dead. His body is destroyed, his viral coding jumps out, finds a new host, and he rebuilds his body around that new host.
And this is pretty much the only known Maverick we know that does this.
Yeah. Anything else infected by his virus just either listens to him or just goes, you know what? I'm just going to start randomly attacking things for no
It's kind
reason.
of considered the Mechaniloids just go berserk, and the
Yeah.
Reploids just kind of start listening to them.
Yeah, some do go completely, but that might just be a bad coding thing.
Hmm.
I think that's why the worst X6, X7 boss doesn't shut the fuck up.
It's entirely possible why.
Burn to the ground, burn to the ground, burn.
Yeah.
That
Here's
sounds like a coding issue.
yeah. So he essentially it even comes to the point where he believes that he's so superior. He actually talks to Dr. Kane, and this is the PSP movie, by the way. And he asks what makes X so well.
Special.
Yeah, and Dr. Kane put it that X can worry. He is so human, essentially, and Sigma just doesn't understand this,
No.
and so Sigma just kind of starts losing it,
Mm,
and then launches a nuclear holocaust. But that's the PSP
sort of.
version. So, and for like the first three games, it's suspected he's the originator of the virus.
Yeah. The fourth one gives us our answer for the virus
Yeah,
comes
the
from.
second one kind of hinted at something darker.
Yeah.
The third one didn't give a shit about that story and just decided to do something else with it.
Yeah.
And then we learn, I think it's the next one. Oh, well, before that, this is the Maverick logo.
Well, this is Sigma's Maverick logo,
Yeah.
as it's supposed to be based off the Greek letter of Sigma.
Oh my
Also,
god.
Sigma has a thing for wolves.
Yeah. I think that's supposed to be his dog. I think I can't think of the name of it now.
I never remember the name of his dog. I just hated fighting that dog in X1 so much.
Yeah.
I don't mind fighting Sigma. I don't mind fighting Sigma that's a wall. It's his dog I hate fighting.
Girder or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I
something like
will.
that. I can't. I used to remember it now, but now I can't. But pretty much anything that works for Sigma, somewhere along the line, somewhere they have that logo,
Belgian Garter?
something like that.
Hmm.
So surprise, surprise, the thing built by Dr. Wily has a secret weapon built inside of it.
We don't know if this was intended or an accident, but the Maverick virus originates from Zero. It's
Mm-hmm.
referred to, the true form is the Zero virus. See, X was found in a capsule, sleeping peacefully like a baby. Zero was found in a capsule. When he woke up, he started murdering everything around him.
Yeah, typical Wily robot.
So when a bunch of Maverick Hunters got destroyed, Sigma's like, all right, I'll go in and cover this. I'm undefeatable. You can see how well that went.
Yeah, this is the moment where Sigma got infected with the Zero virus.
Yes, it's he basically hit Zero's control chip, which is this flashing W on his head. Yeah, good job not making the weak spot obvious, Wiley.
Yeah, Wily's not very smart about that.
And that's like the moment he got infected with the virus. It did not immediately attach to take Wiley Sigma. It evolved in him, or in some cases, it devolved in him because it's not as powerful as Zero's virus. Because Zero's virus actually starts warping space and time.
Well, to be fair, there's three fan theories out there about this.
Yes, I
Number,
like to think it's tied to Megaman 8.
yeah, the first one was that because Sigma's such a highly advanced Reploid,
Hmm.
it's having some sort of effect with the virus. Okay.
Yes.
Second one is because it is the first outbreak of the Zero virus, it hadn't fully adapted to the environment per se, like coding and everything like that.
Hmm.
So Sigma kind of got lucky on that end. A little far fetched, but I can see it.
Yes.
And the third one was that it just because gameplay logic.
Yeah, it's most likely the last one.
Yeah, I think it was just majorly that they just really didn't
Yeah,
know 100% because the viruses just do whatever they want, really.
they really do.
Especially by the time six runs around.
They really do. But yeah, this is the stuff. Zero cannot remember this. His memories start after this fight. He doesn't even know he fought Sigma and beat the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: while in this state, he's just a laughing madman with clearly no self control. The next time, it's not canon though. He gets his powers awoken. The virus is fully charged him. He is in control. Because I'm pretty sure the Awaken Zero fight in X5 is not canon.
Uh,
But double check that.
I think it's canon from Zero side.
Yeah, but they both can't be canon.
No, no, I'm saying like no, I'm just saying Zero winning is canon. Like how the story
Uh,
goes from there. But I could be wrong on that
I
one.
could be.
But anyway, let's go on to the fun villain.
Mhm.
This is Vile, otherwise known as
Yeah.
Vava.
Also known as totally not a ripoff of Boba Fett.
Of course not. I don't see any simulators whatsoever. I mean, Vile here has got a huge shoulder cannon.
Yeah,
Boba doesn't have that.
In Japanese he's referred to as Vava, but in the North American they changed his name to Vile for multiple reasons.
This is his
X1
PSP
body.
version
Yeah, it's
design.
X1 or Maverick Hunter. Basically, this is his first body.
Yeah.
What
Little
I mean by
tweaks
first
here
body,
compared to what was in the X1 for the
yeah,
SNES, but
he comes back two more times in the franchise.
mm-hmm.
Physically, he comes back once as a computer program hologram in one of the Extreme games.
Yeah, the Extreme 1 series is kind of where program really kind of.
Yeah. Anywho, he comes back in X3, and that's the first time I ever saw File because X3 is my first Mega Man game. Yeah, I played Mega Man 3 and Mega Man, then I played Mega Man X3.
Yeah, I actually played them in order. So,
I did never see them in order. Anyway, he also comes back in X8 where he looks completely like Boba Fett, and it's my favorite armor form.
yeah, go check that one out. I don't have that picture here.
Yeah, Vile is. He's got a chip on his shoulder, as in he needs to be the toughest warrior. That's his
Mm-hmm.
shtick.
And he absolutely, completely hates X.
Yeah, the best games to show that off are the crossover games, the Project Cross Zone games, where
Now,
he comes back from the dead just to fight X multiple
yeah,
times.
it really is kind of weird because you think you would want to prove himself tougher than Zero.
It's because Vile couldn't beat Sigma and X beat Sigma, and he doesn't know about Zero and Sigma's fights.
I think it's also because this pacifist is outdoing him. Like, you can
Technical truth.
understand if Zero kicked his ass,
Yeah,
but
he upset by, but not that crazy about. But a guy who doesn't like fighting beat me once.
mm-hmm.
Well, in the at first it's because Sigma's like, be wary of X. He's super strong. It's like X. X couldn't find his way to a paper bag. Here, let me show you. Oh, Zero saved your ass. All right, next time I'll kill you. Huh? He killed me. I will take this rationally and calmly.
And then by the time he comes, you said it was three comes back in. I think it was.
Yeah, he gets rebuilt for three, and he's uncontrollable by the guy who brings him back in three. Dr. Topper rebuilds him and says, I have a plan. I'm going to fight an X. Bye.
Yeah, and X still beats him.
What the? I love in X3 when he dies. He says, I will haunt you to the day you die.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of does.
Yeah, I wish
However,
they'd done it more with him.
I wish he showed up at least one more time before X8. Like, don't make him show up every game.
Like,
But I wish he showed up in like five.
yeah, or at least
Like one, three, five, and eight. Even though that ruins the pattern, he doesn't belong at
you
seven.
know what they
Seven.
also could have done with him.
Mhm.
Like, if give him a group of Mavericks that revere him.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
got nothing to do with Sigma because there's clearly something else going on. But like a group of willing rep boys that follow Vile's way, that they're not trying to prove out the superior species. They just want to be the toughest.
yeah.
Like, hell, they could be a biker gang for all it really matters to me.
With the way he uses his weapon, the riot armors, which we'll talk about in a second, I can see a riot armor gang working for him.
Yeah. Shit. Now we gotta
But
put that in the RPs.
he probably will. Anywho, Vile also, I'm going to say this, he has a lot of good fun boss fights.
He's also fun to play as. That's right. You get to
I know
play as him in the PSP version.
that's one of the reasons why I play the PSP version, but I still haven't gotten around to it. I never probably will.
And you
Because
know
I would.
what? That's actually what I would have liked for. In I think that's why I didn't like Axel because they had something better in Vile.
They did. I've seen gameplay of Vile. It's amazing. This is why I wish the PSP version
Like
was in the
he
next
like
collection.
detaches his
Why
knee and
wasn't the
shoots
PSP version in the next collection?
missiles out of it. He's got this shoulder cannon. He's got like.
Different ways using the boss's weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But seriously, why wasn't his game in the PSP in the X collection game?
I was
The
surprised they
movie's in
just
there.
didn't do the
The
X.
movie is in there.
Yeah, it just would have made more sense to use the PSP version for the X1 stand-in.
No, you keep both.
Oh, they're both in there.
I wish both were in there.
Oh,
I'm saying
I'm just saying
because
if you had to pick one, if you were forced to pick one,
mm,
I'm just saying pick the PSP version. That's all I'm saying.
mm.
But yeah, he was a ton of fun to play as. He's actually, for what lack of information we have on him, he's the better villain than Sigma in a lot of cases because Sigma's just
Yeah,
sometimes felt
pretty
like
much.
Sigma's shoehorned in to be the main villain. Sometimes it was actually creative, like in X4, where he was the one behind Repliforce trying to leave,
Hmm.
and that was a whole scheme and a half that kind of felt both.
His most ingenious scheme is an X5, but we don't know if that's completely Sigma's scheme or Wily's scheme.
I'd give it a 70-30 split.
In favor of who?
Wiley.
I can completely agree with that. Mostly because I think 30% involves the next guy on our list of images. Dynamo. The he's technically a maverick, but he's also a mercenary.
He,
He's also Sigma's flunky in X5 and then just shows up again in X6 to gain power
he
and just
feels like he's a maverick by choice, not by virus.
yeah, he feels like, hey, I can make more money by being, a shit starter.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up in X5 to get in your way of stopping Sigma's big plan, or Wily's big plan, however you want to view it. And in X6, like I said, he shows up just to be stronger and to be a repeating boss because they wanted a reason for you to redo certain stages.
Yeah,
which
kicking
I'm
his ass was
fine with.
fun.
I'm fine with. He was pretty fun in those games, and he was a great way to farm materials. But overall, after X6,
See ya.
nothing. Not a word. Not a peep. And he could have been like, I would have liked if he showed up in X8 as, you know, helping Vile.
You know
Like,
what I just imagined now?
what?
He shows up to fight you, and the Vile just kicks him out of the way because he wants to fight X.
I could see that too. I could see them doing that. Like, I can see them being rivals for Sigma's plans. Like, I want both of you to help my plans. And they just look at each other like, I ain't working with that jackass. I am not working with that uncivilized son of a bitch.
Screw you, I'm fighting X. See ya.
Because you do fight Vile at random points in the game. He shows up as a random mini boss in certain stages. It would have been cool if Dynamo showed up as well. Like you go into a room, and go, "Am I fighting Vile? Am I fighting Vile?" And then Dynamo shows up, like, "Hey, Vile is not the only threat you got to deal with." And then during the final stage, Dynamo prepares to fight you, and then Vile just decks him with a ride armor and says, "This is my fight."
I just
And
pictured Vile just dropping from
oh,
the ceiling and the ride armor on top of him.
that would have made so much more sense in X8 because in X8 you beat Vile in the final stage on hard mode and you're about to leave and then Vile gets back up and grabs you. It would be way cool if Dynamo did that. Like, hey, Vile only knocked me unconscious.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in X, I think it was X8, you can actually fight Vile in a ride armor,
Yeah, it's fun to pick
which
up
was
things with those guys.
very therapeutic because that's how you first fought Vile in X1.
It's how he also fights you the last time in X8.
So
And
there's this fan art. I don't know where it was on Deviant, but it was just X
uh,
having this monstrous grin riding in the ride armor to face Vile.
the shoe was on the other foot now,
And the thing is, like, I know that's not what X would be doing, but if he
but
did,
it's
I
what the
wouldn't blame him.
player's doing.
Fair is fair, motherfucker.
Yep.
So, yeah, he was a fun boss. He was an interesting mini boss in 6.
Yeah. And another example of world building, because obviously a robot with free will would eventually become kind of like a mercenary. And Dino seems not having any scruples. Like Sigma's plan in X5 is to drop a space colony on Earth, which if you know anything about Gundam, that's oh.
Yeah.
So anyone who usually sides with someone on that, he's still on Earth when the colony's gonna drop. Uh,
I think he just either believed he was going to be one of the ones to survive it or he had some sort of backup plan.
he probably has a backup
Because
plan.
despite him being
Kind of a doofus.
doofus and flamboyant to a degree, like, he
Yeah,
is.
he still seems like a professional when he needs to be.
Yeah, he does have. It's clear he's got a brain rattling around in there.
If Vile's the guy to burst in the door and start a fire, I see Dynamo at least having like an escape route. Where Vile's escape route is, I made a hole to get in, I'll make a hole to get out.
Yeah. So let's move on a little bit. This is Gate.
This is my favorite villain.
This is actually, I want to say, third.
That's fair. Gate is the antagonist of X6. He's one of the few villains not under Sigma's thumb. Sigma's still the final boss of the game, but that's because he was under Gate's thumb in a weird way.
Yeah, at this point in X6, Zero was presumed dead.
Yeah, this is after the colony drop. This is after Zero's energy was confirmed to be the virus. Gate
And
picks
Zero
up
pretty much kamikazed himself into the space station
yeah,
to blow it up so it wouldn't destroy Earth.
whatever canon ending you get, you are aware of the virus is originally the Zero virus.
Mm.
Gate is the only person to crack the Zero virus. He studies it and makes his own version of it. He is in control of it. He, in a sense, is a maverick by choice. He's never like infected, even though he's dealing with an infectious substance at all times.
Yeah, he found a piece of Zero, not sure
Mm-hmm.
which piece.
Oh, it's that piece with the green internal part.
Yeah, that helps so much. For all I know, we could have found his boob light.
No, the bootleg is round. This is more rectangular. I have seen that cutscene 1,000 times. I played
But
the shit out of X6.
he.
He makes what's referred to as the nightmare virus, which again warps space and time in a weird way.
Yeah, the Night Virus was the one thing I didn't like about X series in some regards.
That's one of my favorite parts about X6.
The interesting thing about Gate is that he's clearly at times not in the right frame of mind for this shit. kind of like
but he's
Dr. Wily.
yes, but he's clearly in the same weight class as Dr. Wily and Dr. Light in terms of intelligence.
Hmm.
He's the first Reploid scientist who is also really a scientist. Because Dr.
And
Dollar is also a Reploid scientist, but he doesn't feel like a scientist. He feels more like a
yeah, you also
just a
find out
guy.
later he used to work with Alia, who is now a Reploid navigator for
Yeah.
the Maverick Hunters.
He built a bunch of illegal Reploids. He basically Reploids are supposed to fit in this category. Well, mine are overclocked, and they were shut down for being overclocked. They weren't Mavericks. They were just shut down because Gate didn't listen to the rules. He's like, no, no, no. If I do it like this, they're more efficient. They're better. I'm pushing the limits of understanding of robots. Hey, can I study X and Zero? We shouldn't have mysteries. We should be trying to solve these mysteries. His Reploids were shut down because of that, and I think he lost his doctorate because of that. That's why he's just referred to as Gate, not Doctor Gate.
There, from what Alia seems to say in some of the backstory, depending on how you go about it, there might have been a few other things going on, but that was the primary gist
Yeah,
of it.
Gate really feels like he got screwed over by the system, and he's now lashing out. He might actually be infected by the virus, and it's turning his negative emotions loose on him. But at the same time, he's really just experimenting for the sake of experimenting.
I think the
And
fact that there is two ancient machines outpacing anything he could come up with at the time
it upsets him.
is probably somewhat infuriating to him.
It's also he's pretty much been the first person to point out, hey, we've studied the crap out of X to make Reploids. We still have mysteries about X, but how come we don't know much about Zero?
Yeah, that kind of got
And
answered back and forth, but I don't know how many people actually know about that reason.
and I mentioned earlier, Isaac is a character in X6 who is Gates' assistant. We know Isaac is likely Dr. Wily, so is Wily just basically sitting next to him and whispering all the wrong things to him?
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
Gate is also just a cool design, in my opinion.
And then we got Battlegate.
Yeah. Golden Gate, or as I was watching Dragon Ball Z at the time, I referred to as Perfect Gate. Because, well, so
I always just
this
called him Battlegate because this is what you fight him in.
he's also one of the hardest bosses in the PS1 era of the Megaman franchise, if you ask me.
Because unlike a lot of Reploids, Gate based a lot of his combat on Zero.
Mm-hmm. Now, in every boss fight, you can usually, either hit the boss with your Buster or their weakness. Gate's weakness is none of your weapons. It's his own weapon. You have to destroy his projectiles and have them explode at him. The angles they explode at, it's really difficult. This is a super hard boss fight at Zero at times, and I freaking love it because there's no ground. There's just teleporting blocks that Gate can destroy, so you have less room to stand on while you're jumping around trying to redirect his attacks back at him. And remember, Zero's close range. You can get hit by the explosions of these attacks. It's so good. I'm slightly insane.
So it
And I just love that his backup plan was to rebuild Sigma just in case he failed.
yeah, that
And
was a brilliant idea.
you fight zombie Sigma. It's the easiest Sigma fight in the entire franchise.
Yeah, again, I felt like they were just shoehorning Zero or Sigma into it.
Yeah, I think Gate would have been a perfectly fine final boss. I mean, he's hard enough to be.
Like it would have been nice, like at some three, you could have left Sigma out. Six,
Yeah, three. I don't think you can leave Sigma out.
you
Four,
could
you could
have,
have.
but
Four, you could have. In my opinion,
yeah, three, four, and six would probably would have been the games that I would have.
that's fair.
Like you could have made reference to Sigma in three that he's
Yeah,
out there,
I
but
would have been fine with that. Yeah,
not shoehorn him in the game like that is what I mean.
he didn't feel too shoehorned in, but I can see why
Compared
you
to
would do that.
later installments, no, but at the same time, you could like picture this: you have the hardest boss with Doppler.
Yeah,
Doppler dies, and in the background, you see remnants of a Sigma body,
yeah, or several Sigma bodies.
and that's it.
That would have been good.
But
I would have been fine if you saw Sigma in Gate's lab.
mhm.
Like he'd at Gate studying Sigma. Rebuild Sigma? I don't get that. Or if you have to have Sigma in the game, have Isaac be the one rebuilding Sigma behind Gate's back.
To a degree, I think that's what was really going on.
No, Gate outright says he rebuilt Sigma, and Sigma says, "No, no, I didn't need that guy." Arm falls off. Okay, maybe I did.
But no, I'm just saying, like, I kind of get the feeling that Gate was building him at Isaac's behest. Like, that was one of the
Maybe.
whispers Isaac was going on about.
Mhm.
Because, as you said, with as much as he was going on about Zero, like, basing
Mhm.
his 8 Nightmare Hunters off of Zero
Yeah,
data and all that, it just really didn't make sense for him to focus on Sigma.
yeah. All in all, I definitely we at least we both agree that there's no real point in having Sigma in that game.
No.
And Gate is definitely harder than Sigma fights.
And again, like in 4, just for to bring it up, you could have had the end of X5, or I'm sorry, X4, and just at the end credits have Sigma mentioned that his plan failed for this on to the next one.
Yeah.
So, it, and it's kind of the problem with where it goes from X to Zero series, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
This fun
It's the
little
right arc we
thing
talked about.
is one of the basic concept. I think this is from X1.
This is the X1 model, right?
Yeah.
Arms. You fight in Sting Chameleon stage, I think.
Sting Chameleon, um, Chill Penguin,
Yes.
and I think there's one more, but I can't think of it.
I think it's one of the Sigma stages.
Possibly, but it's a
Yeah.
fun little thing. You can get it in, and you can ride around. You can punch things really, really hard.
You can either find them lying on the ground without a pilot, or you can actually just try and jump and shoot the pilot.
I did both, but
Both are fun. And then you get to dash around and rock up, sock 'em robots, other right armors. It's fun.
it is.
Now,
In
while
later
almost
series,
always
they came with different models, like one that can fly, one that drills,
one that has aquatic capabilities,
one that has a buster on it.
one that has a beam punch.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that was fun.
They actually gave him health bars, I think, in 6 or 7. I
Three.
can't remember which.
I think three they had helpers.
Yeah, 3 they had health bars, and that was one where the first 4 came in. The
Yeah.
underwater, the air, the kangaroo for some reason,
Oh yeah, the kangaroo.
and the basic model.
Yeah. But again, if you like them, check out Corruptions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I just like this idea: robots riding robots for rocket socket battles.
Now, however, it's not as cool as a baby piloting a mech piloting a mech.
God.
That's good old Captain Commando.
But yeah, overall, this was a nice concept and addition. It gave you something different to play around with,
Yeah.
and it helped you find some hidden items.
Yep.
And much like a standard Mega Man game, you get to select where you go.
X1 and X6 have one thing in common that I wish the rest of the franchise did. Let's say, for example, you destroy Storm Eagle, the bird on the bottom on the left side.
Right here,
You destroy
just so you
you
can.
destroy him. His aircraft crashes into Flame Mammoth stage. No, not Flame Mammoth, Spark Mandrill stage, causing the
Right
stage
here.
to be completely different laid out. If you defeat Chill Penguin first, Flame Mammoth stage loses all of it's frozen over.
Mm-hmm. Loses the lava,
Yeah,
pretty much.
this is pretty much the only connections these stages have. X6 does something very similar. You beat a certain boss, a new type of nightmare shows up in another place, making the stages different layouts. So let's just say you always go the exact same path. You've only ever seen the stages this way. You go another path. Hey, the stage is all smashed.
Sometimes it makes it easier. Sometimes it can make it harder.
Most times it makes it easier.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes it even easier to get certain power ups.
Yeah.
Like, I did not know about Storm Eagles destroying Spark Mandrill State for 7 years until I decided to do a challenge run where I did the reverse boss fights.
To be fair, I didn't know Chill Penguin's affected Flame Mammoth because I always went Chill Penguin first because he was the easiest of them all.
Yeah.
I could literally just. I literally one time I fought Chill Penguin with my friend.
Yeah.
I was RPing with you, not paying attention to the screen. I just told my friend to tell me when he's on the ground or when he's not.
Oh, I can believe it. Joe Penguin is definitely the easiest boss, I think, in the entire Mega Man franchise. I don't. Okay, a lot of people say Storm Eagle's the easiest boss in this game. No, he has an. If he knocks you off stage, you die. That's not. That makes him just slightly more difficult than Chill Penguin, who has such a predictable pattern.
Look, to beat Chill Penguin, all you gotta do is climb the left hand wall, When he's done moving, jump down, shoot him, and climb back up the wall. He
Can
will
you do
not
that?
touch you.
Oh, what about an attack that blows you against the walls? Shoot him down from that?
Or just stay on the wall kicking.
He's the easiest boss in the franchise.
Yeah.
If not him, then it's Toad Man.
Yeah. So for the longest time, I didn't know he affected Flame Man on the stage because I just did him first because he was easy.
Hmm?
And then I went after Spark Mandrill because I
Well, he's weak to
froze him in
Chill Penguin.
place.
Yeah, that's why I did not know Spark Mandrill stage got affected by Chill Penguin. I know, Chill.
And then I
Foamy.
just went in the order from there.
Yep.
Which, just for the reference, it's the way I used to do it. Chill Penguin, Spark Mandrill, Armored Armadillo, and then he was
Launch Octopus.
Launch Octopus. Launch Octopus was Quanger.
Yep.
Quanger was
Sting.
Sting, and then Sting was
Storm.
Storm. Okay,
And
and then
then
Storm.
Storm
I
is, yeah.
remember Storm was
Yeah.
Flame Man. But I couldn't remember which these two were.
Yeah. By the way, a Boomer Kuwanger is a translation.
Yeah, that's always the weird one for me.
I just think it sounds cooler.
It does, but
But yeah, that's the thing. The Mavericks tend to have elemental term what animal they are for their naming scheme.
prime example in
Chill Penguin. This is one of Soul's favorite Mavericks.
I thought
This
it
is
was really interesting when I think they used mode 7 that he would run into the background, dash around, and jump back on the forescreen to attack
no
you.
that's just using fair use of parallax scrolling, I believe.
Okay, it was one or the other. I couldn't remember which one it was.
Mm-hmm. I don't think any of the X games took advantage of the mode 7.
But
Mm.
it was just real interesting because none of the other bosses really do that.
Yeah, this is Overdrive Ostrich.
Not to mention, ostriches are dicks anyway.
One time my sister got bitten by an ostrich and then she had heat stroke. I thought she had ostrich poisoning. I love that story. We were feeding an ostrich at with Busch Gardens in Florida, and it just snapped at her finger. And then a couple hours later, she got heat stroke because it's Florida, and we're from, well, by the cold Atlantic Ocean part of Canada. I mean, the day before I got heat stroke in SeaWorld, so I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm tougher than her.
So he's pretty much like supposed to be like one of the speed demon Reploids, really.
Yep. And his weakness actually is being slowed down. I like that.
Oh, excuse
But
me, I had to
overall,
clear my throat.
that's okay. But overall, a lot of the Mavericks we fight, well, actually, all the boss Mavericks are animal based, not the humanoid based.
Mm-hmm. And this
Like my
little
favorite,
guy is one of M's favorites.
this is Neon Tiger.
I can really see the neon.
Yeah, he feels the most 90s, if you ask me.
Yeah. Energy claws, check.
Yep.
Tail, check.
The
Brightly
tail shoot,
colored, check.
yep. The tail shoots bright color energy beams. He has an invincibility stage. He has this cool block attack with his claws. He's just fun to fight. He's also the first boss you're supposed to fight in X3, and I actually don't think he's the easiest of the first bosses you fight.
To be fair, this is also the same game that had a wire. No, that was two. That was Wire Sponge.
Yeah.
What
This
else
one
did
has
three have?
it's Crusher Clawfish,
Oh yeah,
Volt Catfish,
yeah. I forgot the catfish. Jesus
Tunnel
Christ.
Rhino,
Well, Rhino is very
Blast
dangerous.
Blast Hornet, Blizzard Buffalo, uh, Gravity Beetle. I think that's all.
Yeah, a sponge, ladies and gentlemen. Maverick's deadliest weapon.
Toxic Seahorse.
Wee, wire sponge. Wee. Literally just
Yeah, yeah.
pulling a Spider-Man.
So they're basically either animal or vegetable.
Yeah, because there was the mushroom.
Yup. And Wire Sponge, he's based off Sea Sponge.
Oh God. Before that image pops any farther, let's continue on.
Yep.
So this fun little thing, it's another mechanic that comes up in some of the games.
They're the ride chasers. They're your motorbikes you drive through a handful of stages.
Yeah.
Some stages are completely based around them, and they're a lot of fun with twitch reflexes. Oh god, they last far too fucking. Like, who puts power ups on jumping pads? And they're fun. They're the good kind of frustrating fun. For me, I can understand why people loathe stages like Jet Stingray and I can't Squid Adler.
And then there's
Yeah,
the ones
Squid,
that should be fun, but they're not.
like the
I'm
X7
looking at
one.
you, 8. or 7. I can't remember which one.
X7 is the one we have to slowly get rid of bombs.
Oh yeah, then it was 7.
Yeah. 8 had the snowmobile stage, which, while fun, lasts about 3 minutes too long.
Now the funny thing about these is that it in the PSP version it can convert to like a land mode to a hover mode. Some seem kind of pointless to me.
Why would you ever take it off hover mode?
Exactly. Why be affected by the ground?
Stupid gravity.
But yeah, but they are fun, and like I said, it's another interesting design that you get to see of that.
Mhm.
Really, I wish they did more with.
Yep.
Like, come on, someone has to have built a tank. I want to drive one of those.
Yeah.
But it does also still have that futuristic feel to it, despite having to deal with gravity.
Yep.
Now, we mentioned earlier that there was a Mega Man X comic.
Sadly, Archie lost the rights of it sometime before Archie lost the rights to Sonic. IDW, please talk to Capcom. At least they knew the comic was ending, so the ending was all right.
Yeah, and there was like a major crossover between Sonic, Mega Man, and Mega Man X.
Yeah, that was the second crossover they did, and they were mostly focused on the Mega Man franchise, the Mega Man era of the time. But they did do like side stories of X, like the back issues,
Mm-hmm.
and X did get fleshed out a little bit. And I think the art style really suited both X and Mega Man.
Mm-hmm. X's design is still once again based mostly off his PSP version, which I think is the superior design.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it does. I like this image because it does show you the difference between both Mega Man and X.
And there's similarities as well.
Mm-hmm. X really does look like he should be the older brother, but technically he's the younger brother. I think they put that out in the crossover.
Yeah, I think Light just wanted someone he could look up to.
Yeah, looking down at like little Mega Man could not have been good for his bad back.
But the
But
stories,
there's also been several mangas based off Mega Man, and those are pretty good from what I understand too.
the manga was a decent one, but was kind of awkward in some places.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that too. But really, I think the best interpretation of the franchise we've ever gotten, being at the games, is the Archie comic,
Mm-hmm. I can totally agree with that one.
which is a right damn shame. Like, I am always happy when a good story gets a nice spin-off material, but the spin-off material should never outshine the original, in my opinion, in terms of writing. It can
Well,
be almost as good or as good, but it should never be better than the original because then you kind of forget about the original.
the only reason this did that is because there wasn't that much great writing in the original series to begin with.
No,
Like
there
this
were
kind of
definite.
expanded upon something that wasn't there essentially.
Yeah, there definitely was a lot of great groundwork. Like I'm not saying, oh, the Japanese side couldn't do it at all, so we need to do the North American side. No, 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 no. They had different priorities for the games. I understand that. My needs and their what they want to do are very different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely thinking the Japanese side could easily make X9 a wonderful story. They've got the groundwork, they've got the drive to do it. Is all I'm saying they need.
And maybe go hire that guy that's making corruption, because he looks like he's doing a hell of a job on his own. Imagine what we could do with a budget and a crew.
Oh my god, yeah. Like I said, I would like the next Mega Man game to be SNES era graphics, like how they did with Mega Man 9 and 10, brought it
Mm-hmm.
back to the NES style graphics.
Okay, so without going into the comic series too much, because
We could be here all week.
yeah, let's get to the biggest problem with the X series.
Yeah, sure.
Give me just one moment so I can find him. Yeah, there he is.
I'm sorry, I don't see any problems.
Yeah, look, I like
Uh,
Zero 2 just fine.
okay, I wouldn't change anything about Zero in this franchise,
No,
but I definitely would give X his goddamn spotlight back.
like I said, like I don't mean that Zero himself is the problem.
No, it's definitely both the fan base and the creators definitely latched onto him too fast.
I
Like,
think this has two problems with it.
mm,
Number one, this was going to be the original character.
yeah.
So there was some favoritism there to begin with.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm
No,
not saying that he doesn't deserve it.
no. I mean, I think the Zero franchise is the strongest Mega Man franchise we've got as a whole.
But
The second
it
strongest might be
Yeah,
Legends,
but
but
in my opinion, when you make the decision that, and I agree with the decision that they made that this would not have been recognizable connecting to Mega Man because of how off design he is from Rock or Mega Man.
mhm.
If you make that decision, work with it. Don't. It feels like they're just, as much as we said, Sigma is shoehorned into a lot of places.
X is shoehorned just as bad in places.
Yeah, and X is the main character. It should not feel like that.
Or if he starts off really strong and the game slowly loses focus on him. Like I think X6 starts off really well focused on him. And he's gone.
And the real issue I have with a lot of this, especially when we get to the Zero games, which focus on Zero and well done in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
we find out that X succeeded in bringing pretty much world peace,
Yeah, no one cares about that. That's understanding.
and it's never mentioned how he did this.
That's basically what the game does. It basically says, an X achieved world peace. But none of you care about this, so let's do awesome swordplay stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we find out that he had help from the Mother Elf to get rid of the Mavericks.
That's a kettle of fish we'll talk about later.
Oh yeah, pretty much just picture the Mother Elf being like a antivirus program essentially.
Yeah. Also, it's just like there's several like I don't hate the idea of X6 X7 where X actually retires. It's just his moping in that game is just so obnoxious.
He was just sitting around in the Maverick Hunter office, I think next to Ayla, just moping about him. Like, if you
He
don't want to be a
retired.
Maverick Hunter, that's fine. I could have gone with this,
Yeah.
but you're just sitting around doing nothing. Are you a
Yeah.
navigator now? Are
All right.
you just visiting? Are you just pestering people at this point? What is going on, and why aren't you out there fighting?
I left the Maverick Hunter to prevent violence. Okay, how you to do that? I intend on standing around Maverick Hunter HQ and complaining about violence. So you just want to do that without being paid?
Jesus Christ. I just like if he maybe like started going into politics or studying the Maverick fighters or something.
Yeah, if he went back
Anything.
to being, if he went to being a Maverick, a Repline researcher, that would have been a really good thing to do. And then Zero could just show up, and go, "Hey, here's Axel. He can copy Repline DNA. People are after him. Do you want to help me save him and save the world?"
But no, I gotta play through Mega Man 7 as Zero and Axel. One is a
Ah.
close range that I'm not that good with, the other one is a bad X clone that I don't want to use.
And if you do too many of the side options, you when you finally get X, X has no way of being powered up. So even when you get X, he's weak.
So basically, you have to do what I do and just walk around basically weak as hell trying to save civilians with a character you're not that good with. Mind you, I can
Uh-huh.
use Zero just fine, but it's like, I'm
It's not
better
your
with
style.
X.
Yeah.
And I don't want to use Axel because I wanted to use X and power him up. So I
What
saved the
happened?
power ups for X.
X7 is the only game in the franchise I have not beaten because the final form of Sigma is such a long range necessary boss fight. And because I'm totally fine playing the entire game as Zero, my Zero is gets all the power ups. So by the time I get X, he's underpowered. Axel didn't get any power ups because I can't stand playing as Axel at all because I couldn't stand his voice.
Yeah, I powered up X, then used the leftovers on Zero.
Yeah, but I didn't have leftovers for X because the game, while I can play as Zero, is not optimized for Zero's gameplay.
Yeah, I can see that one. The 3D environment stages really did not do
And the final
distance
boss
drawing
fight
very
for
well.
Sigma is like Zero's one ranged attack doesn't hurt it. You need to do a counter attack with it, I think. And the camera angle is terrible. And
Yeah.
I got to the final boss. I was doing chip damage to it. I'm just like, I don't care.
But I should not be going around doing a hidden objective of saving like 50 Reploids in order to play as the character whose name is on the goddamn box.
And the problem, if you do that path, those are where you get your power ups from. So those 50 power ups you just got are stuck in Zero or Axel. You cannot take them out and give them to X.
It may not be
So
50, but the point is you shouldn't be doing side quest stuff to place the main character.
it's still a stupidly high number. Or the other option to unlock X, beat the 8 Mavericks. So if you want to get X, you either have to give all your power ups to a character you don't want to give besides X. You want to give the Zero or to Axel, which means X has no power ups to get besides its armors. Or you have to fight all the bosses with no power ups on these characters.
Yeah, that was the other weird thing. X got the power ups and his armors.
Uh, See, here's the thing though. If you had gone the power up route, then X should have showed up with power ups. Reward you for being heroic. If you've gone the Maverick route, you're doing hard mode, so obviously that makes sense for X not to have power ups.
Yeah. I mean,
Because
honestly,
I'm
I
a guy
just
who
did because
likes
I felt I wanted to fight the Maverick Hunters with X, so it's kind of like I either
you know,
have to go about it the way I don't want to, or just do something stupid and get the character I want to fight the Mavericks with.
it's
It's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
as you can tell, no, we really do not like X7.
No. The other problem with X7 is that it switched between 2D and 3D stupidly.
Oh god, it also plays like you're running through molasses. Like the other X games, everything is so fast paced and you're hopping and bopping.
Plus,
And
I don't
now you're
under, I don't understand giving X gliding when in previous games he was giving flight. This feels like a downgrade.
It's really his most pathetic armor since the first one. And the first one has the excuse of it's the goddamn first one on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, just for reference, this is his first armor.
God, I hate that boxer.
Yeah,
His eyes.
but still, it's his first armor. It's pretty much just giving him like white and red and yellow added to his armor, essentially.
Oh no, I have nothing wrong with the design. I mean, like its powers are pretty lame compared to the
Yeah,
worst
all it
powers.
really does is let you headbutt certain blocks, charge your X Buster an extra level,
Charge
uh,
your weapons,
charge your weapons as well,
dash, which then becomes a permanent upgrade for X.
and increase defense with the chest piece.
But for a very first game for the '90s, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
In the seventh game of the franchise, after you've been given super dashes, upward dashes, energy shields,
Outright flight.
firing crazy amounts of buster shots at once, you are given a charge shot and a glide, a slow Tanuki Mario style glide.
I'm pretty sure that's faster than this.
It's slow, so yeah, yeah. Oh, and it has a terrible drop shadow, so during the jumping from plane to plane stages, the glide is almost suicidal.
And
Zero's a double jump is the only way to navigate that stage, in my opinion. I
yeah,
hate
pretty
that
much
stage so
that's why I
much.
took Zero more for traversal than anything else.
Yeah, and like I said, the game feels so fucking slow. Oh, you're walking through molasses.
I mean, X8 had the better two-player co-op mission with it, but you couldn't
I
actually
wish that
co-op with anybody.
no. Although when I played with a friend, we would pause, switch characters, and then hand the controller to each other. He played X, I played Zero, and Axel just stood, just sat her in the background.
And before anybody tells me that they couldn't do a co-op Mega Man X game, they did a co-op online game of Sonic with Sonic 4.
Oh
So,
yeah, I mean that was a generation later, but
well, I'm just saying with the current generation, that should be easily doable.
yeah, give us that.
I mean, could you
By the way,
imagine being able to play, like, if they gave us a game where you could play as Zero, I could play as X, and if we wanted extreme mode, we could damage each other.
ooh, that sounds fun.
I mean, sure, we start off with easy mode, and not be able to hurt each other just to get used to it.
Hard mode right away. I'll even wear my eye patch.
I
Should I
was,
tie bells? Should I tie bells to my hair? Sorry, that's a thing I do in video games. I can patch you myself. Hi,
but
Karma. Hi, Karma. Who's that city puppy?
but the thing about it is that with what they could do with the system today, give us two-player, give us essentially what everything that they're giving to corruption, like multiple pathways, like they did in ZX.
Mm-hmm. Which
Um,
they attempted in Zero One, which
oh, well, I think ZX had the better way about it. So
that's why I said attempted.
yeah, give us the branchways, give us the Reploids, give us some more story, and just let us have fun with it.
Yeah.
You don't need to be too deep with it. You just need a working storyline, some details to kind of explain some things.
Look, we'll be okay if you don't give us the story. Just give us a game again.
I mean, the closest we have right now is a game called 20XX. I think it is for the on the PlayStation Network. It
Mm,
pretty much plays like Mega Man X, but you can co-op it. I think there's a second one that came out for it too.
mm.
But I mean, as much as I do put this in the waste of potential category, it's only wasted by what they're giving us and what they're not giving us at the same time.
You're giving us absolutely nothing.
Because they started out strong with this one up until after 6.
Yeah. X8, I think, is okay.
X8, I actually had some hope for after 7.
Yes, so
Like, this felt like
okay.
they're going back on the
They
tracks.
they really did. They course corrected on a lot of things.
I would even like a Command Mission 2,
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about the RPG.
which would be
Which
another topic for another time, but there wasn't a JRPG for Mega Man. It was called Mega Man X Command Mission.
watch the completionist review of it. The completionist did a really good episode of it.
We'll see that for another episode because we're actually going a bit more on time.
And we also have we need a guest for the episode.
Yes. Which I am, speaking of,
What are we doing next?
we are doing, and once again, our previous guest from Final Fantasy 15 would like to get in on this one too, so we'll see about that.
Sure, it was fun to have.
We have to go on a quest, Em.
What kind of quest?
We must find the Elden Ring.
Oh, I thought we were going on a Dragon Quest.
It
This sounds way harder. I'll
is.
get I'll get me wizarding hat.
Go find Derplander.
Yeah, we'll find Derplander. All right. Overall, guys, I hope you've enjoyed us rambling about the franchise that means the most to the two of us put together.
Mm-hmm.
There are series that we both like more than this, but when it comes to when I think of Soul, I always think back to how much he holds X in reverence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just gonna say this, Capcom, look at Soul actually and just hire him when you want to write X. Because he does a better job than you will.
Yeah, it's as I said, and I will leave this
And
as
if you
the last words for it. X has always felt to me like, as M put it, a Optimus Prime for the Reploid race. He is a protector, a unintentional father figure, and just a decent person. So it boggles my mind where they got this image for 7 from him. And I think if they retcon 7, I would be completely okay with it. Because Axel could just come up in 8 as a new prototype model Reploid, and we don't have to deal with anything from 7 ever again.
I'm never fond of just removing a part of history when it comes to a franchise. I'm more fond of trying to work with it because admitting you had mistakes. But your sort version is very tempting.
But
Well, I think we've rambled on enough.
yeah,
Um, if you're interested, do check out what we talked about, Reptoid Revo for debunking the history of Mega Man's fan stories, the completionist review of Command Missions 1
I
2, and check out Mega Man X Corruptions if you just want to
yes.
see a fan with far more passion and capability than we have
Oh
for this
God,
series.
yes. And here's the thing for you all. In the comments section, if you would please, if you found anything interesting we said, or have your own thoughts or funny stories from Mega Man or Mega Man X, because there's a lot of stories out there. Some of the fun stuff people do with this game.
Oh
Some of
yeah,
it's like Samus with the Metroid games where they just speedrun the shit out of this.
I'm also just gonna say this. I have two of my lifelong childhood, one of my lifelong childhood friends, and my friends from high school. Two of my friends from high school are thanks to the Mega franchise, most of the X series. So this series means a lot to me in my childhood, and I would just love if we got another nod to it. At this point, we are that desperate.
I think the closest thing we got to a nod was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And
Mm.
as much as I don't play X in fighting games,
Sigma worked in that game.
yeah, at least it's X that gave some interesting mechanics too.
Mm.
So, but once
So,
again, we appreciate you for coming in, taking the time to sit and listen to us ramble on.
mhm.
But it is time to end this episode. If there's anything else even if you just have questions, I'd be more than willing to take a look at through this every once in a while and answer any questions that may come up.
Yep.
I won't. I can't promise it'll be instantaneous, but if I see it, I will be more than happy to answer what I can.
You also won't guarantee it's spelled well.
Oh God, no. But also, if you have any suggestions or anything like that, I'll be more than happy to take suggestions for this, and maybe some we
Yep.
may not, never even thought of.
And hey, if anyone knows any other good fan games coming up for Mega Man X, please let us know.
Oh God, please. We need all
I
the Mega
know
Man games
I
we can
know of a
get.
few, but the corruption is the one I'm following the most because mwah.
Oh my God, I wish they would just do like a demo release of that or something.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Take care,
thanks.
everybody.
You all take care.